The first person to tell me about my sister's engagement party was my friend Tessa, and she did it by asking whether she needed to buy me 2 gifts. "What are you talking about?" I asked. There was a pause, followed by the soft crinkling of paper near her phone. "Okay," she said. "Maybe I'm reading this wrong. You've been reading since kindergarten. I trust you." She didn't laugh. A photograph appeared on my screen. The invitation was cream-colored with pink roses twisting around the edges. Lacey and Grant's names filled the center in sweeping gold letters. Underneath them, in a font so small I had to enlarge the picture, were the words, "Please join us as we also wish Mara a happy birthday. My birthday, my caterer, my guest list, my parents' barn." I was still staring when Tessa said, "I thought you were having a birthday dinner." "I am." "On the same night?" "The same night as what?" This time the pause was longer. At the bottom of the card, beneath a champagne glass graphic, Lacey had written that dinner, dancing, and a celebratory toast would be provided. The RSVP number belonged to my mother. Then I saw one more detail. The card said, Saturday, not Friday. It was the exact date I had booked 3 months ago. "Mara," Tessa said carefully, "did your family not tell you? My family told me everything. They told me when Mom's windshield wipers started squeaking. They told me when Dad couldn't find the password to the farm supply website. They told me when Lacey needed somebody to meet a furniture delivery because she had scheduled a manicure during the delivery window. But no, they had not told me I was apparently attending an engagement party on my birthday." I set the phone on my kitchen counter. It was 6:30 in the evening, and I had been halfway through cutting a bell pepper. The knife lay beside a neat pile of red strips, and for some reason that neatness offended me. "Send me a picture of the envelope," I said. "Why? Please." A second photograph came through. Tessa's address was written in my mother's unmistakable slanted handwriting. There was a little loop in the number 8 because Paula Ellison had apparently mailed enough greeting cards in her life to develop a signature 8. I picked up the invitation I had stuck beneath a magnet on my refrigerator. Navy cardstock, thin gold border, Mara's birthday dinner, centered in clean white letters. No roses, no champagne glasses, no engagement. "Where did you get that?" I asked. "It came today. Was there anything else in the envelope?" "No." "Did Ben get one?" "He's included on mine," which, by the way, he considers a major relationship milestone. "Tessa, I'm sorry. I'm trying not to drive to your parents' house and bite someone." That made me laugh, but it came out wrong, more like a cough. "I'll call you back. You don't have to call them right now." "Yes, I do. You sound very calm. I have a knife in my hand. Put the knife down, Mara." I put the knife down. 3 weeks earlier, my mother had sat at that same counter addressing my original invitations while I cooked her dinner. She had come over on a Tuesday carrying a tote bag full of envelopes, 3 different pens, and a pharmacy receipt she wanted me to look at. Mom believed all paperwork became understandable if she placed it in front of me. Insurance statements, appliance warranties, store coupons with unnecessary exclusions. I was the family's designated translator of small print. "I still think you should invite the Harpers," she'd said, licking an envelope. "I haven't seen the Harpers in 4 years. We saw them at Easter." "You saw them at Easter?" "Well, they ask about you." "What do they ask?" She thought about it. "Whether you're still with Daniel. I turned the chicken in the pan. Exactly the kind of conversation I want at my birthday." Mom winced. Not dramatically. Just enough to remind me that my breakup was still considered a delicate object everyone had agreed not to touch, even though they were happy to walk around it and point. "I only meant it might be nice to have a fuller room," she said. "There are 40 people. The barn holds 96. The barn also holds tractors. I'm not inviting any of those." Mom smiled despite herself. She had a beautiful smile when she forgot to manage it. That was one of the dangerous things about her. Paula could make me feel loved while actively trying to get her way. She stacked the envelopes and tapped them against the counter. "Lacey will want to bring Grant, of course. Grant is invited. His parents might feel excluded. I've met his parents twice. They're probably going to be family. If Grant proposes to Lacey at my birthday, I'm pushing him into the hydrangeas. Mara. I'll check for thorns first. Mom laughed then, a real laugh that folded her forward. He isn't proposing at your birthday. I looked back at the cream and rose card on my phone. Apparently, he didn't have to. The dinner had been Dad's idea, or at least that was how I remembered it. A month after Daniel moved the last of his records out of my apartment, I had gone to the farmhouse to help Dad replace a section of fencing. It was late February, cold enough that the metal staples hurt through my gloves. Dad had been pretending not to watch me struggle with the wire stretcher. "You're pulling against yourself," he finally said. "I'm aware." "You want help?" "No." "Good. Builds character. I'm 35. Any character I don't have by now is probably not coming." He laughed and took the stretcher from me anyway. Dean Ellison had a way of helping that made it look like he had merely wandered into the exact place where help was needed. He didn't ask about feelings. He arrived with jumper cables. He changed the oil in my car without telling me and left a note on the steering wheel that said, "Done." When Daniel left, Dad didn't say he was sorry. He came to my apartment with a drill and fixed the kitchen cabinet Daniel had promised to fix for 6 years. That afternoon by the fence, he'd asked what I wanted to do for my birthday. "Skip it," I said. "No, Dad, I'll survive." "That's not the point." I remember looking at him then. Dad was tying off the wire, his gray work jacket unzipped despite the cold. He had turned 64 that winter, and after knee surgery, he still favored his right leg when he thought nobody noticed. "We could use the barn," he said. "Clean it up nice. Paula will make that lemon chicken. I don't want Mom cooking for 40 people. Then hire somebody. I don't need 40 people. You used to like parties. I used to like Boone's Farm and men who played guitar. Terrible era. You paid for my guitar lessons. I was trying to redirect you. It had felt good, that conversation. Easy." Dad wasn't trying to cheer me up in the loud, panicked way Mom did. He was just making space for something after a year in which everything had seemed to shrink. By the time we finished the fence, I had agreed to the barn. Not because it was free. I paid for the caterer, the cake, the flowers, and a cleaning crew for Sunday morning because I didn't want to spend the day after my birthday sweeping up other people's crumbs. But the barn mattered to me. Dad and I had made much of it usable together. When he bought the farmhouse 12 years earlier, the back building had warped doors, a leaking roof, and one furious groundhog living beneath the steps. Over the years, we replaced boards and painted walls and dragged home mismatched tables from estate sales. Lacey helped choose the string lights, which meant she stood in the center of the barn holding 2 catalogs while Dad and I spent 4 hours on ladders. Afterward, she told everyone the lights were her project. I let her. That was my problem, although I didn't call it a problem then. I thought of it as keeping perspective. If Lacey needed to be praised for the lights, fine. I knew who had installed them. Dad knew too. At least, I thought he did. I called Mom first. She didn't answer. I called Lacey, straight to voicemail. I called Dad, who answered on the 4th ring with, "If this is about your mother's car, I already told her that sound is the brakes. It's not about the car." Good. Because she hears one squeak and starts pricing new vehicles. "Did you know Lacey was engaged?" Silence. Not surprised silence. Arranging his words, silence. "When did you hear?" he asked. Tessa got an invitation. Ah, that one sound hurt more than it should have. I pressed my palm flat against the counter. "What invitation, Dad? You should talk to your sister." I called her. "She's probably at dinner with Grant." "Then you talk." Another pause. "Well," he said, "they had some news, and the timing was awkward." "What news?" "You know what news. I know what's printed on a card I didn't send." Dad exhaled through his nose. "Grant proposed last weekend. Last weekend. I had talked to Lacey twice since then. On Sunday, she'd called because she couldn't remember whether Mom's cardiology appointment was at 10 or 10:30. On Monday, she sent me 6 pictures of shoes and asked which pair looked less bridal. I'd picked the beige ones. "Why is their engagement announcement using my birthday date?" I asked. "They're not announcing it that night. People already know." I didn't know. I assumed Lacey told you. You mailed invitations. Your mother mailed them. You knew about them. It wasn't a question. Dad knew it wasn't a question. He lowered his voice, which meant Mom was probably somewhere near him. Lacey showed us the design. The design. Don't do that. Do what? Repeat words like I said something stupid. I looked at the cut pepper, the invitation on my phone, and my original Navy card under the refrigerator magnet. How many did she mail? I don't know exactly. How many, Dad? Somewhere around 90. I closed my eyes. The barn held 96 if nobody wanted personal space or access to a bathroom. My caterer was preparing dinner for 40. My cake served 48 if Tessa did the cutting, 32 if my mother did. Who's paying for 90 dinners? You'd have to ask Lacey. She put dinner provided on the invitation. Well, dinner was already being provided for 40 people. We'll work it out. There it was, we. The family word that almost always meant me. Did Mom give Lacey my envelopes? No. Then how did she get my guest list? I gave her the spreadsheet. For a moment, the kitchen seemed strangely quiet. Even the refrigerator stopped humming. I had sent Dad the spreadsheet because he wanted to check addresses for 3 of his cousins. It included every guest, every phone number, the caterer's estimate, the cake pickup time, and a column where I had marked dietary restrictions. You gave her my spreadsheet. She needed addresses. For her engagement party. For the combined party, he corrected. There is no combined party. Mara, it's the same people, the same place, the same evening. There's no sense duplicating everything because Grant proposed a few weeks earlier than expected. I heard Mom say something in the background. Dad covered the phone, but not before I caught my name. Did Lacey ask you before changing the invitations? I said. She asked whether she could send them. And what did you say? He came back on the line. His voice had hardened, the way it did when he believed patience was something he was providing me. I said yes. The answer was so clean I almost admired it. You approved them. It's my barn, Mara. I stared at my own name, reduced to a polite afterthought beneath Lacey's gold lettering. Then Dad said, "You're not going to make your sister feel guilty for getting engaged, are you?" I don't know, Dad. Is she going to feel guilty? That's exactly what I mean. What do you mean? You always know how to make a point sound like a weapon. I laughed once because otherwise I was going to say something I couldn't pull back. She took my birthday party. She didn't take it. Your name is on the invitation, in the fine print. It's not fine print. I had to zoom in. You were looking at a picture on a phone. Whose side are you arguing right now? The fonts? Dad made the tired sound he used when a conversation failed to obey him. Lacey is happy. You've had a rough year. We thought putting the 2 occasions together might be good for you. That landed with such precision I had to grip the edge of the counter. How? You won't have to be the center of attention all night. It's my birthday. I know that. Do you? Mara. No, explain it. Explain how making my birthday about Lacey is good for me. I'm not going to argue while you're in this mood. You mean the mood I'm in because of the thing you did? I didn't do anything to you. He said it calmly, and that was the sentence that ended the call. Not because I hung up. I couldn't. Ending a call on my father felt too much like slamming a door, and Ellisons did not slam doors. We stood in them for 40 minutes, making each other late. Dad said Mom wanted to speak to me. There was fumbling, a muffled warning I couldn't make out, and then my mother's voice came on too brightly. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Mom. So, big news. Apparently. Isn't it wonderful? I looked around my apartment as if another woman might be available to answer. The bell pepper was drying on the cutting board. My skillet sat cold on the stove. I had taken chicken out of the refrigerator, but I no longer remembered what I planned to do with it. Why didn't Lacey tell me? She wanted to. She called me about your cardiology appointment. I told her it was at 10. It's at 10:30. Well, see? This is why we need you. Mom laughed. I did not. She lowered her voice. Lacey was afraid you might have mixed feelings. About her getting engaged, about the timing. The timing she then printed on invitations and mailed to my friends. I told her the wording should be more equal. That stopped me. You saw them too. Of course I saw them. I addressed them. My envelopes. No, honey, these were larger. Square envelopes require extra postage, by the way. Nobody tells you that until you're standing at the counter. I shut my eyes. Where are my invitations? Another small silence. Here, she said. All of them? The ones we hadn't mailed. You hadn't mailed any? We were waiting because Lacey said she might have news. 3 weeks ago, Mom had sat in my kitchen, licking envelopes and telling me Grant was not going to propose at my birthday. The entire performance had been a holding pattern. She had taken the Navy cards home, put them somewhere, and waited to see whether my plans would become inconvenient. You knew he was proposing. I suspected. And you let me order invitations. You'd already ordered them. You addressed them in front of me. I was helping. No, you were pretending. Mom's breath caught. Guilt came off her as quickly as perfume. It made me want to comfort her, which made me angrier. That is not fair, she said. What part? We didn't know exactly when Grant would ask. Your father only knew because Grant called him. It was respectful, Mara. People don't do that anymore. Grant asked Dad for permission? Not permission, his blessing. And Dad's blessing came with my guest list? That's ugly. It happened. Lacey thought one celebration would take pressure off everyone. Grant's parents live 2 hours away. Your Aunt Susan has that bad hip. Your father can't keep setting up the barn every weekend. Dad isn't setting up the barn. I hired people. I know, but there's still so much to do. Another family we. I could almost see the word floating between us, looking for somewhere to land. Who's doing it? I asked. We all are. Who ordered enough tables? The barn has tables. 48 chairs, I counted. We can borrow folding chairs from church. Who's picking them up? Mom hesitated. Your father's truck is difficult for me. Of course it is. You see? You're already getting sharp because you've already assigned me a job. I did not assign you anything. I was answering your question. My phone vibrated against the counter. Lacey's name appeared on the screen. Lacey's calling, I said. Please listen to her before you react. I've been listening to people explain my own birthday for 20 minutes. She loves you, I almost said. That isn't the question. Instead, I ended the call and answered Lacey. She came in fast. I was going to tell you tonight. Were you? Yes. Grant and I wanted to take you to dinner. When? Next week. My party is in 16 days. I know when your party is. Your invitation suggests otherwise. She sighed, a long stream of breath aimed directly at my personality. Can you please congratulate me before we do this? That was the trap. If I refused, I was jealous. If I congratulated her, the conversation moved immediately to why my approval should include everything she had done after the proposal. Still, beneath all of it, my sister was engaged. Lacey had wanted to marry every serious boyfriend she'd had since college. But Grant was the first one I understood. He was reserved where she was restless. He listened all the way to the end of a sentence. At Thanksgiving, he had spent 20 minutes helping Dad get a jar of cranberry sauce to release in one intact cylinder, because Dad insisted presentation mattered. When it finally slid onto the plate, Grant had raised both hands like a surgeon completing a transplant. I liked him. More importantly, Lacey seemed less frantic around him. I am happy for you, I said. I like Grant. I think he's good for you. But you mailed engagement invitations for my birthday. They're joint invitations. Did I agree to a joint party? I didn't think I had to put you through a formal approval process. You didn't ask me at all, because I knew you'd say no before thinking about it. There was so much Lacey in that sentence I could have framed it. Then you knew you needed to ask. No, I knew you'd have an emotional reaction because of Daniel. I pulled the chicken from the refrigerator and set it on the counter, though I still had no plan for it. What does Daniel have to do with your invitation? I'm not saying this to be cruel. Good start. You're sensitive about engagements right now. I'm sensitive about identity theft too. Doesn't mean you can put my name on a credit card. That is not remotely the same. You used my date, my location, my guest list, and my dinner. Your birthday is still included, like parking information. Everyone already knows it's your birthday. Grant's second cousin knows it's my birthday? She doesn't need to. Then who are these 90 people? Lacey went quiet and I heard restaurant noise behind her. Glasses clinking, someone laughing, music low enough to sound expensive. Are you at dinner? I asked. Yes. With Grant and his parents. Do they know you're calling me? I stepped outside. Do they think I approved this? A car passed near her, briefly swallowing the silence. Lacey, they think it was a family decision. Was it? Your family. That's not what I asked. You always do this. You turn everything into a deposition. I asked one question. And I'm trying to tell you how much this matters to me. Grant's parents offered to host something, but their house is too small. We looked at restaurants and everything decent has a minimum. Dad said we already had the barn ready and relatives coming. So you invited Grant's co-workers, 6 co-workers, and your yoga instructor. Melanie is one of my closest friends. I've never heard her name. You don't ask about yoga. I didn't know you did yoga. I started in January. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Somehow, this felt like another accusation. How many of the people you invited are mine? Why are we counting? Because my caterer is feeding 40. Then call her. The casualness of it left me silent. Lacey filled the space. Obviously, we'll add more food. We're not expecting people to share chicken breasts. Who is we? Grant and me. Mom and Dad. Everybody. You sent the invitation before you added the food. We needed RSVPs first. No, you need food before you promise dinner. You're getting hung up on logistics. It's a dinner party. The logistics are the party. This is why we included you. I leaned against the counter and stared at my reflection in the dark kitchen window. I looked pale and strangely formal, like someone about to deliver bad news. You included me because I'm paying the deposit. That's not true. How much are you paying? We haven't discussed money yet. You discussed font size. Oh my God, Mara, Dad told me you were upset about that. Dad told you? He texted while I was calling. Of course he had. The Ellison emergency system was functioning perfectly. I was the emergency. A man said something in the background. Grant, probably asking whether she was all right. I have to go, Lacey said. Can we talk tomorrow when you're calmer? I'm calm now. You don't sound calm. Neither do you. I'm standing outside a restaurant trying not to cry during my engagement dinner. For one disloyal second, I pictured her there, in a thin blouse, one arm wrapped around herself against the March cold. Lacey cried easily but never falsely. Her feelings were real. They simply arrived with the expectation that everyone else's feelings would clear the room. I didn't make you go outside, I said. No, you just made it impossible for me to enjoy one night. She hung up. I stood in my kitchen until the silence became embarrassing. Then I did what I had always done after a family conflict. I started solving it. I put the chicken away, opened my laptop, and found the catering contract. 40 dinners, 3 past appetizers, coffee service, staff for 4 hours. The balance was due the Monday before the event. I pulled up the guest spreadsheet and added a second tab, Lacey's list. I didn't have all the names, so I typed estimates. Grant's family, 20. Work people, maybe 12. Friends Mara does not know. Apparently, the entire state of Virginia. At the bottom, I calculated the likely difference. The number was ugly but survivable if I moved money out of the savings account I had been rebuilding since Daniel left. I hated myself a little for checking. The next morning, I called Ruth at the catering company from my car before work. She answered cheerfully and remembered the chocolate orange cake, even though the bakery was separate. When I told her the guest count might increase to 90, she whistled. That's not an increase, she said. That's a second party. Can you do it? We can. We'd need another server, more rentals, and a revised deposit. Is your sister covering the difference, or should I send the new contract to your father? I looked through my windshield at the office parking lot, where ordinary people were walking into work carrying coffee and not financing their own erasure. Why would my sister cover it? I asked. Ruth paused. Well, she said, because it's her engagement party. Ruth gave a small, uncertain laugh. I assumed. Why? She called yesterday. My hand tightened around the phone. Lacey called you? She had questions about the menu. She wanted to know whether you'd chosen plated service because she thought stations might feel more festive. I watched a man in a blue windbreaker struggle to keep the office door open with his foot while balancing 2 coffees. Another man took one and thanked him. A complete transaction. Somebody needed help. Somebody helped, and nobody rewrote the occasion afterward. What did you tell her? That the contract is in your name, so I couldn't change anything without you. I thought she was going to speak with you. What else did she ask? Ruth hesitated, professionalism warring with curiosity. Whether we could switch the past appetizers to a champagne toast. We can't. We can, actually. I mean, she can't. Right? Of course. And please don't change the guest count. Okay, keep it at 40. Same menu, same staff, same contract. I can do that. If Lacey calls again, give her a separate estimate. Under her name. Are both events still happening? I opened my mouth and discovered I had no answer. The barn belonged to Dad. He had made that very clear. He could fill it with 100 people and 3 marching bands if he wanted. But my dinner did not belong to him. I don't know, I said. For now, don't add anything to mine. Ruth's voice softened. Understood. And don't tell her the cake flavor. There was a beat. I'm sorry? I don't know. It felt important for a second. I will protect the cake information with my life. That got a real laugh out of me, the first one since Tessa's call. Inside the office, I made it nearly to my desk before Tessa rolled her chair into the aisle and blocked me. We worked for the same regional insurance company, though in different departments. She handled commercial renewals and had the unnerving ability to know when someone was lying before they finished choosing a tense. You look terrible, she said. Thank you. Did you sleep? Not in the conventional sense. She held out a coffee. My name was written on it correctly, which felt like an act of devotion. Conference room, she said. I have a 9 o'clock. It's 8:20. I have 40 minutes of staring at my inbox scheduled. You can stare in conference room B. Conference room B was barely a room. It held a round table, 4 chairs, and a framed poster of a sailboat labeled Teamwork, as if the sailboat had built itself through consensus. Tessa shut the door. Tell me you didn't agree to pay for 90 people. I didn't agree. Her eyes narrowed. That was not my question. I called the caterer, Mara, to make sure Lacey hadn't changed my contract. Had she? She tried. Tessa sat back. I'm revising my position on biting. I told Ruth to keep everything at 40. Good. But the barn will have 90 people. Then 40 of them will eat. Which 40? The fastest. I'm serious, so am I. It could be a valuable lesson about footwear. I wrapped both hands around the coffee. Dad owns the barn. He approved the invitations. If I don't add food, they'll say I deliberately let guests go hungry. Lacey mailed the invitations. Mom addressed them. Then Mom and Lacey can buy food. Dad gave her my spreadsheet. Tessa stopped moving. Even her face seemed to still. He what? My addresses, vendor details, all of it. That spreadsheet you made with the little color-coded boxes? They weren't little. I watched you spend 20 minutes deciding whether beige counted as a color. It was taupe. He gave her your spreadsheet? I nodded. Tessa leaned forward. Mara, this was not a misunderstanding. I know. Do you? The coffee lid clicked beneath my thumb. She knew my family well enough to ask that question. Tessa had watched me leave her birthday dinner to take Dad his spare keys. She had helped me move Lacey out of an apartment after a breakup, only for Lacey to reunite with the man before we finished carrying down the lamps. 2 Christmases ago, Tessa had given me a small embroidered pillow that read, Family Emergency Coordinator. Mom had found it insulting. Dad had asked if it came in lumbar support. I can't stop them from having the engagement party, I said. No, but you can stop pretending it's yours. What does that look like? It looks like having your birthday somewhere else. The idea was so obvious I rejected it immediately. I already paid deposits. Moved the caterer. To where? My aunt's restaurant has a private room. On a Saturday? Tessa grimaced. Probably not. Exactly, but maybe Friday. My birthday is Saturday. You were born at 11:47 at night. We can start dinner Friday and make everyone stay until midnight. I'm 36, not 21. Fine. We'll make everyone leave by 10 and lie about the clock. I shook my head, but the idea had entered the room. I could feel it taking up space. Tessa saw that. Call Aunt Gwen. I'm not calling your aunt and asking her to rearrange her restaurant because my sister hijacked my party. You wouldn't be asking. I would. That's worse. Why? Because then you're fixing it for me. She considered that. Fair. You call. My 9 o'clock meeting began before I could decide anything. For the next hour, I discussed renewal timelines while messages appeared across the top of my laptop. Mom, I hope you got some rest. Lacey, I'm sorry last night became so negative. Dad, call me when you get a minute. Then Lacey again. Ruth says she can't discuss changes without you. I turned off message previews. At lunch, Mom appeared in the office lobby carrying a paper bag from the deli across the street. She wore a coral cardigan and lipstick, which meant she had dressed with intention. My mother's casual clothes did not include coordinated color. The receptionist called me downstairs. I brought turkey, Mom said when I stepped into the lobby. No mayonnaise, I'm not hungry. You have to eat. You drove 30 minutes to bring me a sandwich? I was nearby. You live 30 minutes in the opposite direction of everything. She glanced at the receptionist who had become intensely interested in her computer. Can we sit somewhere? We ended up outside on a bench beside 2 planters filled with decorative cabbage. Mom handed me the bag. It contained a turkey sandwich, salt and vinegar chips, and the lemon cookie I liked. The accuracy of it almost undid me. I'm not here to argue, she said. Then why are you here? I hate how we left things. You mean when you asked me to listen to Lacey and she told me I ruined her engagement dinner? Mom sighed. Your sister can be dramatic. So can I, apparently. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She folded her hands over her purse. Her wedding ring had twisted sideways, and I had the automatic urge to straighten it. I should have mailed your invitations when you gave them to me, she said. Yes, I thought we were saving everyone trouble. Whose trouble? All of ours. I wanted one dinner. And you'll have one. We are not taking that away from you. You already did. No, we expanded it. I looked at her. If someone ordered you a plain cheeseburger and then added mushrooms, onions, barbecue sauce, and a second cheeseburger on top, would you call that expanded? That depends on the restaurant. Mom. She pressed her lips together. Lacey has always dreamed about her engagement. Most people dream about the proposal, not the mass mailing. Grant's family celebrates things differently. They make an occasion out of everything. So this is for them? It isn't for anyone. That's what family does. The decorative cabbage moved in the wind between us. Did Grant know she was changing my invitations? I don't know. Did he know I hadn't agreed? I'm sure Lacey explained. That isn't an answer. I don't interrogate her relationship. No, you just address its invitations. Mom flinched, and I hated the small pleasure that gave me. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. This is the preliminary RSVP list. I didn't take it. Why do you have that? People started calling this morning. Your Aunt Susan is coming, but she can't stay late because of her hip. The Hollises can't come. Grant's parents will be there, obviously. Some people are confused about gifts, so I told them, you're taking RSVPs at 9 in the morning. The number is on the invitation. My number was on my invitation. Lacey thought I would be more available during the day. You hate answering unknown numbers. This is different because they're calling for Lacey. Mom unfolded the paper and smoothed it on her knee. Names covered the front in her slanted handwriting. Besides some, she had written B, E, or both. What are the letters? I asked. birthday, engagement, or both gifts, just so we can set up the right table. For several seconds, I couldn't speak. You asked them which gift they're bringing? They asked me. And you wrote it down? I'm trying to stay organized. The invitations had arrived 1 day ago. I handed the paper back. Do not make a birthday gift table. Where should people put things? They shouldn't bring me gifts to someone else's engagement party. Her face tightened. There you go again. Again what? Calling it someone else's party. Look at your list. She looked, but only for a second. I want my invitations back, I said. They're at home. All of them. What are you going to do with them? They're mine. Well, yes, technically, but they're no longer accurate. They were accurate until you replaced them. Mom refolded the paper with sharp, exact creases. Your father is trying very hard not to be hurt by the way you're speaking to him. I actually looked around the parking lot, convinced I had missed a step. Dad is hurt? He thought you would understand. Why? Because you're practical. The words settled between us like an assigned seat. Mom's voice softened. You know how Lacey gets when she thinks people aren't excited enough for her. If we had told her no, she would have taken it personally. And if you told me no, you don't fall apart. It was the closest my mother had ever come to admitting the system out loud. She seemed to hear it after she said it. Her eyes shifted away from mine. I put the unopened sandwich back in her hands. I'm not increasing the catering, I said. I'm not paying for chairs, champagne, decorations, or anything else Lacey promised. Mom stood so quickly, her purse slid from her lap. People are already coming. Then you should tell Lacey. You're really willing to humiliate her over a few extra plates. 40 plates are mine. The rest are hers. I went back inside before she could answer. At my desk, I opened the restaurant website Tessa had sent me. Her aunt's private room held 42. I stared at the photograph for less than a minute before dialing the number. A woman answered on the 6th ring with, Gwen's table. This is Gwen, and if you're trying to sell me linen service, I already have towels. I'm not selling anything. Then we're off to a strong start. My name is Mara Ellison. I'm a friend of Tessa's. Oh, honey. That was not encouraging. What did she tell you? Only that your sister stole your birthday. She didn't steal it. All right. She redirected it. Like a plane? Like a plane carrying 90 people and insufficient chicken. Gwen laughed. She had Tessa's laugh, low, abrupt, and slightly inappropriate for the moment. What do you need? I looked at the photograph of the private room. Exposed brick, dark green walls, 3 long tables. It was smaller than the barn and warmer. There were no string lights I had installed, no storage closet full of extension cords labeled in my handwriting, no family history hiding in the floorboards. Is that room available next Friday? It is. Saturday's booked. Friday is what I need. How many? 40. Maybe fewer if people can't change the date. Dinner or cocktail? Dinner. 6:30? 7 if possible. Some people are coming from work. We can do 7. Tessa said you already have a cake. I do. Bring it. Our pastry chef won't be offended. He's been divorced twice. I almost asked what one had to do with the other. Instead, I said, Can you hold the room for an hour? I can hold it until this afternoon. After that, I need a deposit and a menu selection. Fair. And Mara? Yes? If you don't want to do this, don't let Tessa bully you into it. She gets that from her mother's side. The kindness in that nearly made me hang up. I had been able to manage outrage. Kindness kept finding weak spots. I want to do it, I said. The moment I ended the call, Dad called. I watched his name pulse across the screen until it stopped. Then Mom called. Then Lacey sent a message. Mom just left your office crying. I hope you're proud of yourself. I typed, I'm not, deleted it, and set the phone face down. Tessa appeared over the partition between our desks. Well? Your aunt said she'd hold Friday until this afternoon. Her whole face changed. Really? Don't make it a thing. I'm not making it a thing. You're making the face. What face? The face you made when we found that $20 bill in the elevator. That was an excellent day. I haven't booked it, so book it. I have to call Ruth. I'll lose the catering deposit. Maybe not all of it. It's 16 days away. People need caterers in spring. People who plan events 16 days in advance deserve grocery store cheese trays. People who plan events 6 months in advance apparently get their birthdays annexed. I pointed at her. This is why I don't tell you things. You tell me everything. Against my better judgment. Ruth answered during her afternoon prep window. I told her I needed to cancel the Saturday dinner. Cancel the party? She asked. Move mine. She was quiet for a moment. And the engagement, not my event. All right. I heard a keyboard clicking. She explained that the initial deposit was non-refundable under the contract, but she had another client who had asked about that date after I booked. If they still wanted it and agreed to my menu minimum, she could return half. You don't have to do that, I said. I'm aware. Thank you. I haven't done it yet. I'm thanking you for trying. That I'll accept. I kept the coffee service and appetizers for Friday by arranging for Gwen's kitchen to take delivery before dinner. It was an inelegant compromise involving 2 invoices, a delivery fee, and more money than I would have spent if my family had simply mailed the cards I gave them. But the details belonged to me. Every choice did. That made the extra cost feel less like waste and more like buying back a room. The bakery changed the cake pickup to Friday without comment. At 4:15, I paid Gwen's deposit. Then I wrote a message to the 39 people on my original list. I spent 20 minutes trying to make it gracious and produce something that sounded like an airline delay. Plans for my birthday dinner have changed. I'll now be celebrating Friday at 7 at Gwen's table. I'd love to see you there, but I understand if the new date doesn't work. Please let me know by Monday. I added the address and stared at the screen. Tessa leaned around the partition again. Send it. Do you work? Not since you introduced this plot line. They're going to ask why. Then tell them. I don't want everyone talking about Lacey. She mailed 90 invitations with your name in 6-point font. Everyone is already talking about Lacey. It was at least 8-point. Send the message. I sent it. Responses arrived before I packed my laptop. Owen wrote, Friday works. Is Saturday still happening? Aunt Susan said she would try to switch a medical appointment, which made me feel terrible until I remembered she scheduled medical appointments at 7 at night, mostly to avoid eating with other people. A former neighbor said she couldn't make Friday but hoped I enjoyed the dual celebration, followed by 2 champagne emojis. I answered each person honestly. Saturday is now Lacey and Grant's engagement party. I wasn't involved in changing the original plan, so I moved my birthday dinner. No adjectives, no accusations. Just enough truth to keep anyone from arriving Friday expecting an engagement toast. By the time I reached my car, Dad was waiting beside it. He had parked his truck crooked across 2 spaces and stood with his arms folded over his work jacket. Anyone else would have looked aggressive. Dad looked like a man waiting for someone to admit they had backed over his mailbox. You're not answering, he said. I'm at work. You answered your mother. She came inside. His jaw tightened. She brought you lunch. I didn't ask her to. That doesn't mean you send her away crying. I told her I'm not paying for Lacey's party. You could have said it without making her feel like a criminal. I said it outside my office next to decorative cabbage. There was no interrogation lamp. This is funny to you? No? He looked older than he had at the fence a month earlier, tired around the eyes. For a second, I wanted to open the car, make him get in, and turn on the heat. That was how quickly my anger could be trained away from itself. I moved my birthday dinner, I said. What does that mean? It's Friday now, at a restaurant. Dad unfolded his arms. You did what? The original guests are coming Friday. You can't change the date after invitations went out. The invitations I approved never went out. You know what I mean. I know exactly what you mean. He glanced toward the office windows as if someone might be watching. What is supposed to happen Saturday? Lacey's engagement party with your caterer. No. I canceled the barn delivery. His face went still. I watched the information work its way through him, the extra guests, the food, the staff he had not arranged because I had always been the arrangement. You canceled the food? I moved my dinner. People have been promised a meal. By Lacey. You signed a contract. For 40 people. I'm feeding 40 people on Friday. Where? Gwen's table? Tessa's aunt? Yes. He rubbed his mouth with one hand. His wedding band flashed in the late sun. This is spiteful. It isn't. You moved your own birthday to make a point. I moved it so I can have a birthday. You could still have one Saturday. Dad, whose names are biggest on the invitation? Oh, for God's sake, answer me. Nobody studies invitation fonts. Tessa did. Tessa looks for trouble. She found it in her mailbox. Dad stepped closer, lowering his voice. Your mother has already taken 43 RSVPs. Lacey is meeting with somebody about flowers tonight. Grant's parents ordered champagne. We can't pull the floor out from under them now. Then don't. How are we supposed to feed everyone on this kind of notice? I reached into my bag and pulled out Ruth's business card. I carried several because I had expected people to ask about allergies at the party. I held it toward him. Call her. She can give Lacey a separate estimate. Dad did not take the card. You know your sister doesn't have money budgeted for this. Then she should have checked before inviting people. She assumed the basics were covered. My basics were covered. It's one dinner, Mara. Then paying for it shouldn't be a problem. His face changed. Not much, but enough. Dad had come prepared for my anger, not my arithmetic. We've already spent a lot on that barn over the years, he said. So have I. Nobody charged you rent for your party. I never asked you to. You were happy to use the family property when it suited you. I was happy to celebrate in a place I thought I was welcome. You are welcome, on the condition that Lacey gets the bigger party. There are no conditions. Then why couldn't you tell her no? His eyes slid away. Dad could repair a hydraulic line in the rain. He could carry a conversation through any practical disaster, because practical disasters had parts. This had no parts, just choices. You're making this much uglier than it needs to be, he said. No, I'm making it separate. That's not how families work. It's how dates work. Friday is mine, Saturday is hers. He finally took the business card, not because he agreed, but because refusing would mean he had come to my office only to argue. Your invitations are at the house, he said. Your mother said you want them back. I do. Come get them tonight. I can come tomorrow. Lacey's stopping by tonight. We should all talk. I've talked to everyone. Not in person. In person doesn't make you listen better. He shoved the card into his jacket pocket. 7 o'clock. I'm not agreeing to that. You just said you wanted your invitations. The threat was tiny enough to deny. He would never destroy them. He would simply make retrieving my own property require one more family meeting, one more opportunity to wear me down. Put them on the porch, I said. I'm not leaving paper outside. The porch is covered. It's supposed to rain. Then put them in a plastic bag. He stared at me as if I had suggested burning the farmhouse. You're really not coming? Not tonight. Dad stepped back. Fine. It wasn't fine. We both knew it. When I got home, there was a florist's proposal in my email. The subject line read, Ellison Engagement Celebration, and Lacey had copied me with a note. Can you put the deposit on your card? Mine is almost maxed, and Dad said you'd be reimbursed. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to Dad with 3 words. You approve this? Dad replied 6 minutes later. I said we would make sure she had flowers. I did not tell her to use your card. Before I could answer, Lacey called. I let it ring. She called again. Then she sent, Are you seriously tattling on me to Dad? I wrote, You said he approved it. He approved flowers. Then why didn't you ask for his card? The typing bubbles appeared, vanished, and appeared again. Dad doesn't order things online. Our father ran an entire farm supply account online. He had once spent 2 evenings comparing pressure washers and emailed me a spreadsheet titled Final Washers. I typed this, then deleted it. Defending Dad's technological competence would drag me into a side argument about passwords, and Lacey was gifted at escaping through side arguments. I replied, I am not paying the deposit. She called a 3rd time. I answered. Why did you copy me on a florist contract? I asked. Because you're handling vendors. No, I'm not. You hired the caterer. for my birthday, and then canceled her. I moved my dinner. Without telling anyone, I told 39 people. You know what I mean. It was unsettling how much she sounded like Dad. The same phrases, the same confidence that what she meant should carry more weight than what she said. The florist is charging $1,100, I said. That includes delivery and setup. I don't care if it includes a woman named Rose performing interpretive dance. I'm not putting it on my card. It would be reimbursed. By whom? Dad. He just said he didn't approve my card. He's mad because you made it sound sneaky. You told me he approved it. He approved the flowers. How else was I supposed to pay the deposit? With money. She gave a small, disbelieving laugh. Right. Because you have cash sitting around for every expense. I don't. That's why I don't invite 90 people to dinner. Gran and I will give it back to you. When? After the party. With what money? Why are you asking about our finances? Because you put your finances in my inbox. She inhaled sharply. This is supposed to be a happy time. I'm sure it is. Do you hear yourself? Yes. You sound bitter. I sound like someone who read the amount before clicking pay. I wasn't asking you to give me $1,100. That is exactly what a credit card charge is. You would get it back, then wait until you have it. The florist won't hold the date. Then get grocery store flowers. Silence. To Lacey, grocery store flowers were not a budget option. They were a public statement that no one had tried hard enough. Mom said, "You're making people choose between Friday and Saturday," she said. I invited my guests to my birthday, the night before a major family event. It was a birthday before it was a major family event. People are driving in from out of town. Aunt Susan can't do both. Aunt Susan is driving 40 minutes. She has a bad hip. Her hip was bad when you invited her to Saturday. You're being deliberately difficult. I'm saying no, you're punishing me. The sentence arrived softer than everything before it. I sat at my kitchen table. The cream invitation was still open on my phone, but the navy one had disappeared from my refrigerator. I remembered taking it down to compare them. It was now beneath my laptop, one corner visible. For what? I asked. For getting something you wanted. I almost denied it. Then I thought of Daniel's empty half of the closet and the faint, clean rectangles his record shelves had left on my wall. I wanted to be married, I said. I didn't want to marry Grant. You know what I mean? Yes, I do. You've acted weird ever since I started dating him. I invited him to my birthday. You invite everybody. I invited 40 people. That's everybody to you. I pressed my fingertips against my forehead. I like Grant. Then why can't you be happy for us? Why couldn't you be happy for me for one night? She said nothing. It was not the sort of silence that meant I had reached her. It meant she was choosing among several defenses. Finally, she said, Dad offered the barn. For my birthday. He owns it. That's what he told me. Well, he does. I looked at the dark window over my sink. Somewhere behind my reflection was the apartment building across the courtyard, its windows lit in small yellow squares. Other people were cooking, watching television, arguing about whose turn it was to take out trash. I wanted an ordinary problem so badly. Find another way to pay the florist, I said, and don't give any vendor my information again. Mara, I'm getting off the phone. You always hang up when you don't want to hear the truth. No, I usually stay until everyone else feels better. I'm trying something new. I ended the call. The florist emailed 10 minutes later to ask whether I wanted to proceed. I replied that I was neither the client nor financially responsible for the event and removed myself from the thread. It felt absurdly official. It also felt good. By morning, 14 people had confirmed for Friday. 6 couldn't switch dates. 3 said they would attend both celebrations, and one cousin sent a thumbs up without specifying anything. Owen called while I was getting dressed. Your message caused a situation, he said. What kind? Aunt Susan called my mother. My mother called me, and somehow I am now responsible for identifying which event is more official. Which one did you choose? The one with chocolate orange cake. You're shallow. I'm consistent. I sat on the edge of my bed to put on shoes. Did Aunt Susan say what Mom told her? That you moved your birthday because you felt overwhelmed sharing attention. I stopped tying the lace. Those were her words? Mom's or Susan's? Either. Susan said Paula said you've been fragile since the breakup. My throat tightened, but I kept my voice even. I'm not fragile. I know. I didn't move it because I couldn't share attention. I know that, too. Did you correct her? Owen was quiet. He was Mom's sister's son and had spent most family gatherings surviving by agreeing with whoever currently held the serving spoon. I told her you probably had your reasons, he said. Which means no. Which means I didn't turn a phone call about appetizers into a tribunal. Fair. I'm on your side. I didn't ask you to pick a side. Everybody's asking everybody to pick a side. That was the first consequence I hadn't anticipated. I had thought separating the events would make the distinction clear. Instead, it gave the family 2 dates onto which they could project loyalty. I just want dinner, I said. Then have dinner. I'll be there. With a gift? No. Your mom asked what I'm bringing, and now I'm opposed to gifts as a concept. I laughed. After work, I drove to the farmhouse for my invitations. No plastic bag waited on the porch. Instead, Mom had left the front door unlocked and texted, "Come in when you get here." I found her in the barn, standing on a stepladder with a tape measure stretched along one wall. She wore jeans, Dad's old flannel shirt, and reading glasses. Several rolls of rose-colored fabric lay on a table beneath her. "What are you doing?" I asked. She looked over. "Trying to figure out the backdrop. The one I'm not paying for?" Lacey found another florist. "Good. She's borrowing silk flowers from a friend." "Also good." Mom climbed down. "You don't have to sound pleased that she can't afford what she wanted. I'm pleased she solved it without my card. She was counting on you." "I know." That answer made Mom look at me differently. The barn smelled like dust and cut grass, though the grass outside was still patchy from winter. Late sunlight came through the high windows, illuminating all the imperfections Dad and I had never fixed. A pale rectangle marked where we had removed an old feed sign. One plank near the west wall still curved upward at the edge. I knew which outlet overloaded if the coffee urn and speakers ran together. Mom gestured toward a cardboard box on the table. "Your invitations." I opened it. 39 navy envelopes rested inside, already addressed and stamped. Tessa's was missing. "You bought stamps for these," I said. "Yes, and then bought extra postage for Lacey's. We reused the addresses." "That wasn't my point." "I know." There were faint smudges in the corners of several envelopes from sitting under something heavier. I lifted the stack and found one of Lacey's cream invitations beneath it, face down. Mom saw it. That was an extra. Why was it in my box? I don't know. I turned it over. The roses were even more elaborate in person. Thick and pink, with tiny printed thorns. Where did she have these made? Online, using my guest list. She added people. I noticed. Mom removed her glasses. Without them, her face looked tired and strangely unguarded. "You embarrassed your father yesterday. He came to my office. He thought you might listen there. He thought I wouldn't argue in public." She folded the glasses and put them in her shirt pocket. "Ruth's estimate is over $4,000. For 90 dinners, staff, and rentals, that sounds right. We don't have $4,000 for an engagement party. Then don't spend it. People are coming from 2 hours away. So serve pizza. Grant's parents ordered champagne. Champagne goes with pizza. Mara." I set the cream card back in the box. "What do you want from me? I want you to help us find something reasonable." I did. Ruth's number is reasonable. Grocery store flowers are reasonable. Fewer guests would have been reasonable. The invitations are out because you mailed them. Her mouth tightened. I said I was sorry. You said you should have mailed mine. That's not the same as being sorry you mailed hers. I'm trying to apologize without letting you make me the villain. Maybe stop negotiating the apology. Mom turned away and began gathering tape measures. Her shoulders moved with one quiet breath. "You think this is easy for me?" she asked. "No, I love both of you." "I know." "Lacey needs more. She takes more. That isn't always the same thing." "No, but you've never made her learn the difference." The barn door rolled open behind me with a metallic scrape. Lacey stepped inside carrying 2 garment bags, followed by Grant with a case of bottled water balanced against his chest. He smiled when he saw me. "Hey," he said, "I'm glad you're here." "Lacey said Friday dinner was your idea for welcoming my family." Lacey went perfectly still. I looked at her, then at Mom. "No," I said. "Friday dinner is my birthday." Grant's smile faded. "I thought Saturday was your birthday." "It is." The water bottles shifted in his arms. "So why," he asked slowly, "are you celebrating Friday?" Lacey recovered first. "She moved it because she didn't want to share," she said. Grant set the water on the nearest table. "Share what?" "The party." "My birthday," I said. "I understand that part." He looked from me to Lacey. "I don't understand the rest." Mom picked up the loose rolls of fabric. It got more complicated than anybody intended. "It isn't complicated," Lacey said. "Mara wanted her own dinner, so she moved it to Friday. I wanted the dinner I planned. You still have it because I moved it." Grant rubbed one hand over the back of his neck. "I thought Saturday was always both." "No," I said. Lacey's eyes flashed at me. "It became both when we got engaged." "Did Mara know that when we made the invitation?" Grant asked. The word "we" caught my attention. "Did you make it?" I asked him. I chose the picture of the champagne glasses. Of course he had. The least offensive part of the entire card. "I mean, Lacey designed it," he said. "She said your parents were combining the events. My parents did." "Dad owns the barn," Lacey added. Grant looked at her. "That's not what I asked." Mom suddenly became very interested in folding the rose fabric. She lined up the edges, smoothed a wrinkle, and folded again. Grant faced me. "Did you agree before the invitations went out?" "No." His eyebrows drew together. "But you knew?" "I found out when my friend got one in the mail." The barn went silent enough that I could hear a bird scratching around on the roof. Lacey dropped the garment bags onto a chair. "You're making it sound like I did this behind your back." "You did." "I talked to Mom and Dad." "You didn't talk to me, I was going to. After people RSVP'd, I didn't know the mail would get there that fast." That was such a ridiculous defense that even Mom stopped folding. Grant stared at Lacey. His expression wasn't angry yet. It was watchful, almost careful. "You told me Mara thought combining them made sense," he said. "She always says she hates being the center of attention. I also say I hate olives. That doesn't mean you can put them on my cake. Can we not compare my engagement to olives?" I wasn't. It sounded like it. Grant raised both hands slightly. "Okay. Nobody needs to. I'm not fighting," Lacey said. Neither was I, technically. My voice was level. My body felt like it had been plugged into an outlet. Mom stepped between us without appearing to. She held up one of the garment bags. "These are table linens from Maribel's wedding. She said we could borrow them for free. Isn't that generous?" Nobody answered. "We were just trying to keep costs manageable," she continued. "Grant, would you help me see whether these fit the round tables?" "Sure," he said automatically, but he didn't move. Lacey crossed her arms. "Are you mad at me?" Grant looked at her, then at me. "I'm surprised," he said. "That means yes. It means I didn't have the full story. You had the story. Mara is giving you her version because she wants you to think I'm selfish." "I answered your question," I said. "No one asked you to announce that I lied. You did lie." Mom said my name in warning. Grant rubbed his jaw. "You told me your sister suggested the joint party." Lacey's face changed, not dramatically. Her chin lifted, but her eyes dropped. "Dad suggested it." "Dad suggested using the barn," Mom said. Lacey spun toward her. "Whose side are you on? I am not taking sides. You just corrected me." "Because those are different things." It was the first time since this started that Mom had drawn a distinction in my favor. She looked frightened by it. Lacey laughed without humor. Great. Everybody gets to act morally superior because I wanted one nice thing. Grant's voice softened. You're getting a nice thing. Am I? Because all anyone can talk about is Mara's birthday. It is her birthday, and it's our engagement. Yes. Why does hers automatically matter more? I almost answered. Then I heard the word she had chosen. Automatically? I said. Lacey looked at me. When has mine ever automatically mattered more? Her eyes shone. Tears came quickly to Lacey, but there was anger behind these. You matter more every day. That isn't true. You're the one they trust. You're the one Dad calls smart. You're the one Mom tells everything to. Do you know how often people in this family say, ask Mara? Ask Mara where the paperwork is. Ask Mara what time dinner starts. Ask Mara what we should buy. You get to be important all the time, and then you act like I'm spoiled because people celebrate me once. The word struck somewhere I wasn't armored. I looked at Mom. She had gone completely still. Lacey wiped beneath one eye with the heel of her hand. You think being the one everyone worries about feels good? You think I don't hear what they mean when they call you dependable? Grant took a step toward her. She moved away. I didn't say you shouldn't have an engagement party, I said. No. You just moved everything so mine would fail. I moved my food. Same thing. That's the problem, Lacey. The barn door scraped again. Dad entered carrying an extension cord over one shoulder. He surveyed the room, the garment bags, the box of invitations in my arms, and Lacey crying. What happened? He asked. Ask Mara, Lacey said, and walked out. Grant stared after her for 1 second before following. Dad looked at me. What did you say? I told Grant I didn't approve the invitations. You had to do that now? He asked. You could have spoken to Lacey privately. I did. She hung up on me. Mom sank into a chair. Grant thought Mara suggested combining the parties. Dad's jaw tightened. Did you tell him that? I asked. No. You gave Lacey my spreadsheet. I did not tell her to lie to Grant. No. You just approved the result. Dad dropped the extension cord on the table. You came here for your invitations. You have them. Mom glanced up at him. Dean. What? Every time she comes over now, someone ends up crying. I held the box against my chest. Then I'll go. He turned away first, bending to examine an outlet he had already examined hundreds of times. Mom followed me outside. Lacey and Grant were parked behind the barn, but they were both inside his car with the doors closed. Lacey's hands moved as she talked. Grant sat facing forward. You shouldn't have told him like that, Mom said. I answered him. She was going to explain. When? I don't know. I shifted the box to one hip. Are you and Dad coming Friday? Her face tightened. Of course we want to. That's not an answer. We have so much to do here. The party is Saturday night. Grant's parents arrive Friday afternoon. We offered them the guest room. Dinner is at 7. I know. You could come for 2 hours. Your father won't leave guests. Then come without him. Mom looked toward the barn. She had spent my entire life turning Dad's preferences into weather. If he didn't like restaurants, then restaurants became impractical. If he wanted Christmas morning at home, travel became impossible. She did the same thing with Lacey's feelings. They weren't decisions anyone had made. They were conditions the rest of us had to plan around. I'll try, she said. I nodded. Okay. It was not okay, but I was tired of forcing clear answers from people committed to fog. The box fit on the passenger seat. As I backed down the gravel drive, Grant's car remained behind the barn. I didn't hear from Lacey for 4 days. The silence would have worried me once. I would have checked with Mom, then sent Lacey a harmless photograph or a question about shoes to reopen the door without requiring either of us to apologize. Instead, I addressed the changes in front of me. 32 people confirmed for Friday. Gwen helped me choose a menu that did not involve poultry because I no longer wanted to hear the phrase chicken breast. Ruth found another client for Saturday and returned half my deposit. I used it to cover the private room and tried not to calculate how much money the entire correction had cost me. I kept the original invitations in their box on my dining table. One evening, I opened every envelope and crossed out the barn address, then stopped. The cards had become useless. Sending corrected paper invitations 9 days before dinner would only confuse people. I put them back. At work, people asked whether I was excited about my birthday, and I said yes until it started becoming true. Tessa handled the truth differently. She has a registered gift list, she announced one morning, dropping into my visitor chair. Who? Your sister. How do you know? The invitation says their wedding website is coming soon, so I searched their names. That is invasive. It was on the internet. She registered for a $400 espresso machine. Lacey drinks tea. She also registered for 12 wine glasses. She owns wine glasses, not emotional support wine glasses. I covered my face. Please stop researching my family. I'm monitoring a developing situation. Do work. My computer is updating. Her computer screen clearly showed a spreadsheet. A message appeared on my phone from Grant. Can we talk sometime? I stared at it. Tessa leaned forward. Who is it? Nobody. Your face says somebody. It's Grant. She sat back slowly. Interesting. He probably wants me to apologize. For telling him something true? For timing the truth incorrectly? That's not a thing. In my family, it is. I didn't respond until lunch. Sure. Is Lacey okay with that? His answer came a few minutes later. She knows I'm reaching out. We met the following evening at a coffee shop near his office. Grant arrived first and had already claimed a corner table. He wore a blue button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled to his forearms, and he looked tired. I got you tea, he said as I sat. Lacey said you don't drink coffee after noon. I don't. She knows things about you. The statement was too careful to be casual. Grant pushed the cup toward me. I'm not here to get in the middle. You're marrying into the middle. He smiled briefly. I'm starting to understand that. I peeled the paper sleeve away from the cup. How is she? Embarrassed, angry, mostly at you, partly at herself, and somehow also at me. That sounds like Lacey. She says you've been waiting for a reason to make her look bad. I haven't. I know. I looked up. Grant folded his hands on the table. I asked to talk because I owe you an apology. I believed you had agreed to the party. If I'd known otherwise, I would never have let those invitations go out. Did you see the part about my birthday? Yes. And it didn't seem strange? He winced. Lacey told me you wanted the focus off you because of your breakup. There it was again. My sadness converted into permission. Did she tell your parents that too? Yes. I took a sip of tea. It was too hot, and I welcomed the sting. Grant looked down at his hands. My mother thinks Friday is a welcome dinner for our families. Why? Because that's what Lacey told her. Your family isn't invited Friday. I know that now. A woman at the next table tore open a packet of sugar and poured it carefully into her coffee. What exactly are you asking me to do? I said. Nothing. I'm trying to figure out what I'm participating in. That's between you and Lacey. I know, and if you cancel the engagement party because of this, she'll blame me for the rest of our lives. I'm not canceling it. I let out a breath I hadn't meant to hold. Grant's expression stayed serious. But I'm paying for the extra food. Not you. I've already spoken to Ruth. That's not necessary. It is for the people we invited. We? He accepted the correction without defending himself. The people whose names were added for us. I looked at him over the rim of the cup. You don't have to rescue her, I said. I'm not. It looks familiar from here. He sat back. For the first time, I understood why he had asked me to meet. He wasn't only apologizing. He was looking at the role my family had built for me and wondering whether he was standing in line to inherit it. I love your sister, he said. I know. She isn't cruel. I know that, too. But she can make wanting something feel like an emergency. I turned the cup slowly between my hands. Yes, I said. She can. Grant nodded. I can make avoiding conflict feel like kindness. That also looks familiar. I thought you might say that. He gave a tired smile, then looked toward the window. Outside, people moved along the sidewalk with their collars raised against the wind. I'm not asking you to forgive her, he said. I just don't want you to think I knew. I don't. Thank you. But paying for all the food won't fix what she did. I know. Does she? He took longer to answer. She knows she lied to me, he said. I'm not sure she understands why the rest matters. That sounds right. She said birthdays happen every year. I laughed quietly. Of course she did. I told her engagements aren't supposed to need a hostile takeover. That probably went well. She slept at your parents' house. I'm sorry. Why? Because now Dad thinks you upset her. I did upset her. He said it without resentment, which surprised me. Grant lifted his cup. She's allowed to be upset. She's not allowed to solve it by making the facts different. There was something steady in him that made me understand Lacey's attachment. He did not absorb her emotions, but he didn't run from them either. Daniel had responded to conflict by becoming quieter until I filled the silence with concessions. Grant seemed willing to let discomfort remain in the room without turning it into a task. Maybe that was why Lacey had lied, not because she thought he was weak, but because she knew he wasn't. Are you still coming Saturday? He asked. I was invited. That's not what I asked. Yes, I'm coming. Good. I'm not setting up. I know. I'm not coordinating anything. I know. I'm not fixing the speakers. He almost smiled. Your dad mentioned the speakers. Of course he did. I rented a system. That was so offensively competent, I had to laugh. Grant laughed too, and for a few seconds we were simply two people who cared about the same difficult woman in different ways. When I got home, Lacey had left a voicemail. I know you met with Grant, she said. I'm not going to tell you who you can talk to because apparently I'm the only person in this family who doesn't get to control everything. I hope you got what you wanted. She paused. In the background, I heard a cupboard close. He says he still wants to marry me, in case you were wondering. Another pause. And I'm glad your dinner is working out. The message ended before I could decide whether that last line was sincere. I didn't call back. Friday arrived with steady rain and a cold wind that turned umbrellas inside out along Main Street. I left work early, changed into the navy dress I had bought for Saturday, and spent 15 minutes standing in front of my mirror trying to decide whether wearing it twice would look pathetic. Then I remembered no one at Gwen's table knew what I intended to wear Saturday. The restaurant glowed at the end of the wet block, its windows fogged around the edges. Tessa stood under the awning in a red raincoat directing Ruth's delivery staff as if the loading of mushroom tartlets required air traffic control. You're early, I said. You're the guest of honor. You're not supposed to notice labor. I hired the labor. Go inside. Gwen met me at the front with a towel over one shoulder and kissed my cheek like we had known each other for years. The cake is in the cooler, she said. The appetizers arrived. The room looks beautiful, and no one has mentioned an engagement. Perfect. The private room looked better than the photograph. Tessa had brought small glass vases filled with grocery store tulips, though she denied arranging them. 32 place settings lined the long tables. There was no gift table, no backdrop, no decorative script announcing anyone's name. At one place, Owen had put a handwritten card that said, "Emotional support wine glass." I laughed hard enough that Gwen came in to make sure nothing had broken. People arrived damp and apologetic, shaking rain from coats and offering explanations I hadn't requested. My friend Camille had traded shifts with a coworker. Aunt Susan had not moved a medical appointment. She had lied about having one in the first place and seemed offended I had believed her. My former neighbor brought her wife, who presented me with a small basil plant because she said birthday cards were overpriced. No one appeared burdened by the new date. That was the strange part. I had spent a week imagining everyone calculating which Ellison daughter deserved attendance. Most people walked in, hugged me, found their seats, and asked what smelled good. Mom arrived 20 minutes late. She stood in the doorway wearing the blue blouse I had given her for Christmas and holding the deli bag she had taken away from my office days earlier. "You brought me a sandwich?" I asked. "I brought the cookie." She pulled out the lemon cookie, slightly crushed but still wrapped. "I put it in the freezer," she explained. "I didn't know if you'd want it." The fact that she had kept it undid something small in me. "I do," I said. She hugged me. Her coat was cold and wet against my bare arms. "Your father wanted to come," she whispered. "But Grant's parents are at the house. Dean didn't think both of us should leave. Okay, he sent this." She handed me a narrow box. Inside was a new set of drill bits. I stared at them. He said, "Yours were dull." "They are. He noticed when you did the fence. My father could turn an apology into hardware without ever touching the apology. Tell him thank you." Mom's eyes searched my face. He really did want to come. Then he should have. The answer hurt her. I let it. She stayed for dinner but kept checking her phone. Every time it lit, she turned it face down, then looked guilty for turning it face down. At 8:15, Dad called. She excused herself and answered in the hallway. Aunt Susan watched her go. "Your mother would answer that man during surgery." "She did," Owen said. "Knee surgery. He wanted to know where she parked." Mom returned looking flustered. "They can't find the extra coffee urn. It's in the barn storage closet, upper shelf behind the drink dispensers," I said automatically. Mom began typing. Then I reached across and covered her phone with my hand. "Dad knows where it is. He says he looked. He looked like a man. Tell him to look like a woman." Aunt Susan laughed into her napkin. Mom hesitated, then put her phone in her purse. "He can manage. It was a small thing." So small I could have missed it. But she sat back down and finished her wine. Dinner stretched past 10. Gwen dimmed the lights before bringing out the cake, and everyone sang badly enough to feel sincere. Tessa insisted on cutting it because she did not trust Mom's definition of a serving. There was enough for everyone and one thick corner left over. My phone vibrated while Owen was telling a story about the summer Dad tried to keep raccoons out of the corn with a motion-activated sprinkler and repeatedly forgot to turn it off before walking past. Daniel's name appeared on the screen. "Happy birthday, Mara. I know it's technically tomorrow. Hope this year is kinder to you." For a second, the room receded. The message was simple. No hidden invitation, no question. Daniel had always remembered my birthday, even when we were fighting. Once during a snowstorm, he had walked 3 miles carrying a grocery store cupcake because he couldn't get the car out. I missed him so abruptly I could feel it in my teeth. Then Tessa touched my wrist. "You okay?" "Daniel, do you want to go outside?" I looked around the table. Mom was arguing with Aunt Susan about whether the raccoon story had happened in June or July. Camille was drawing something obscene in the condensation on Owen's water glass. Gwen stood in the doorway holding a bottle of wine she claimed had been opened accidentally. "No," I said. "I'm okay here." I answered Daniel with, "Thank you. I hope you're doing well, too." Then I put the phone away. Mom left at 10:30. She kissed my cheek, took a container of cake for Dad, and apologized again for leaving before midnight, even though no one had asked her to stay. After the others went, Tessa, Owen, and I remained at the long table while the restaurant staff cleared around us. Gwen brought coffee without asking. The room was warm and messy, littered with folded napkins, crumbs, and half-empty water glasses. "You seem disappointed," Owen said to Tessa. "I expected at least one public argument. I can call Aunt Susan back. She's still outside trying to open the wrong car." I rested my chin in one hand. "Thank you for coming." Owen frowned. "You invited us." I changed the date. "You gave me 9 days. Some people acted like I moved Thanksgiving. Some people don't have hobbies." Tessa lifted her mug. "I do. It's researching Lacey's registry. I told you to stop. She added a bread maker. She doesn't eat bread." "Exactly." I laughed, and the sound filled the mostly empty room. For years, I had treated loneliness like proof that I wasn't doing enough. If I remembered more birthdays, drove more miles, solved more problems, People would gather around me without being asked, but I had been measuring love by how urgently people needed me. Nobody at that table needed me. They had come anyway. At 11:47, Gwen turned the dining room lights off and on 3 times. "That's the restaurant version of singing," she said from the doorway. Tessa raised both hands. "She's officially 36. Owen looked at his watch. "It's still 11:46. Your watch is slow. It's connected to a satellite. My feelings are connected to the universe." Gwen brought the remaining lemon cookie from Mom's bag. She had stuck a candle through the wrapper because she said health regulations were vague on sentiment. I made a wish I refused to tell them, blew out the candle, and stepped into my birthday with my 2 closest friends laughing beside me. The rain had stopped. Tessa and Owen walked me to my car, where we stood talking for another 20 minutes because none of us seemed ready to end the night. I slept until almost 10 Saturday morning. My phone held 14 birthday messages, 3 missed calls from Mom, and a text from Dad sent at 7:12. "Need you here by 3. Lights on West Wall are out." I read it while eating leftover cake over the sink. At 10:15, he sent another. "Please don't make today harder than it already is." I set the phone down and finished the cake. At 4:30, I put the navy dress back on, steamed the wrinkles from the skirt, and changed my earrings so I wouldn't feel like I was repeating the night. I wrapped the bottle of champagne I had bought for Lacey and Grant in plain silver paper. There was no card. Every message I tried sounded either false or cruel. Before leaving, I opened the box of unused Navy invitations and took one out. I wasn't sure why. I slid it into my purse behind Ruth's business card and drove to the farm. Cars already lined both sides of the gravel drive. A man I didn't recognize stood near the barn directing traffic with a flashlight. He waved me toward the far field. I lowered my window. "I'm family," I said. He consulted a handwritten sheet clipped to a board. "Bride's side or birthday side?" he asked. "Neither," I said. "I'm Mara." He checked the sheet again. "Oh." His eyes moved from the board to my dress, then back to me. "Happy birthday." "Thank you." He pointed the flashlight toward the field. "Birthday side is along the fence. There were 6 cars parked there, and at least 40 on the other side." I considered explaining that someone had apparently divided parking by allegiance, but he looked cold and underpaid. "Who hired you?" "Lady in the coral sweater." "Mom?" "Of course." I parked beside Aunt Susan's sedan and changed from heels into the flats I kept in my trunk. The ground was soft from the rain, and the barn sat at the top of the slope, glowing unevenly. Half the west wall string lights were dark. Dad stood on a ladder outside the open door, working at a junction box while Grant held a flashlight. "I told you the outlet was overloaded," I said as I approached. Dad looked down. "You're late. I'm a guest. It's your party, too." "It isn't." Grant glanced at me, then focused the flashlight on Dad's hands. "You could have answered your phone," Dad said. "I was celebrating my birthday." "Last night?" "Yes." He climbed down stiffly and handed the screwdriver to Grant. "The breaker keeps tripping. Coffee urn and the west lights are on the same circuit. I know that." "Then move the coffee urn. We can't run a cord across the doorway. There are floor covers in the storage closet." "Where?" "Upper shelf, behind the drink dispensers." He stared at me. Mom had apparently passed along my directions without the commentary. Grant lowered the flashlight. "I'll get one." "No," Dad said. "You need to change before people start coming." "People are here," I said. Dad looked past me at the cars, as if they might be an optical illusion. Grant gave my shoulder a quick squeeze on his way inside. "Happy birthday, congratulations." He smiled, but his eyes were tired. The barn looked like 2 parties had collided, and neither one had insurance. Rose-colored fabric covered the back wall in loose vertical folds. Maribel's silk flowers had been wired into thick bundles at each corner, but their colors ranged from blush to artificial purple. Mom had set up 2 gift tables after all. One bore a sign reading, "For the happy couple." The other said, "Happy birthday," Mara in her handwriting. 4 gifts sat on mine. I placed my champagne on Lacey's table and put my purse beneath a chair. Mom appeared carrying a tray of empty glasses. Her coral sweater matched the parking attendant's description and none of the decorations. "You came," she said. "I said I would. I wasn't sure after your father texted you." "You knew he texted?" "He was frustrated. He wanted me here at 3 to fix lights. He wanted your help. He wanted my labor." Mom looked around before answering. "Could we please not use that word tonight? Labor? It makes us sound terrible. I didn't choose the word for effect." She shifted the tray to her other hip. "You look beautiful. Is that the dress from last night?" "Yes, it doesn't look repeated. I wasn't worried until now. That isn't what I meant." An older couple entered behind me, and Mom transformed. She smiled, called them by name, handed them glasses, and directed them toward the gift tables. The woman hugged Mom and then looked at me. "You must be the birthday girl. At 36, I think I'm the birthday woman." She laughed and hugged me too. What a wonderful idea, celebrating together. I smiled. "Thank you for coming." Mom's eyes stayed on me until the couple moved away. By 5:30, the barn was full enough that conversation became one continuous roar. Grant's family dressed as though the invitation had said cocktail attire instead of festive attire. Dad's cousins wore jeans and sport coats. Lacey's co-workers arrived in a group carrying matching gift bags. Every few minutes, someone I had never met wished me happy birthday and immediately asked where Lacey was. She made her entrance at 5:45. The garment bag had held a pale pink dress with a fitted waist and soft sleeves. She wore her hair pinned up and her engagement ring angled outward against the champagne glass in her hand. She looked beautiful. She also looked scared. Grant met her halfway across the room. The fear went out of her face when she saw him. That hurt in a place I didn't want to admit existed. Lacey noticed me over his shoulder. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she walked over and hugged me. "Happy birthday," she said near my ear. "Thank you. You wore the navy dress." "I did. I always liked that color on you." "Thank you." She stepped back. "Did you have fun last night?" "Yes." Mom said a lot of people came. 32. Her smile tightened. "That's nice." It was. Someone called her name and relief crossed her face. Before turning away, she touched my wrist. "I'm glad you came," she said. I believed her, which made everything harder. The first food problem appeared at 6. Ruth's staff had set out appetizers, but people treated mushroom tartlets like survival rations. A tray that should have lasted 20 minutes disappeared in 4. Mom followed servers around asking when more were coming. Grant's mother, Evelyn, opened containers of cheese and crackers she had brought for the house and arranged them on unused cake stands. Evelyn was tall, silver-haired, and composed enough to make panic look like a scheduling inconvenience. "I hear last night was lovely," she said as we laid crackers in circles. It was. "I'm sorry we missed it. I was under the impression it was family only. It was my original birthday guest list." Her hand paused over the cheese. "Oh," she said. I placed another row of crackers. "Lacey told you it was a welcome dinner." She did. I didn't know that until Grant told me. Evelyn looked across the barn at Lacey, who was laughing with co-workers beneath the rose backdrop. "I see," she said. She did not ask me to explain. I liked her for that. Dinner was announced at 6:30, although announcing it required Dad to strike a spoon against a glass because the rented microphone produced only static. People formed a line at the buffet. Ruth had agreed to prepare 80 meals on short notice, and Mom had supplemented them with trays from a grocery store. Unfortunately, no one had coordinated portions. The first guests took both Ruth's herb chicken and the store's sliced beef, treating the buffet as a tasting menu. By the time Aunt Susan reached the front, the beef was gone and the chicken looked endangered. "I had cake last night," she said. "I'm fine. You need dinner. I've lived 72 years without you assigning me protein." Owen appeared behind her. "I had 2 tartlets. I'm prepared to sacrifice." "You hate mushrooms. I'm growing." Mom hurried over, her face flushed. "Ruth has another tray in the van." "No, she doesn't," I said. "That's the vegetarian pasta." How do you know? It was on the estimate. You said you weren't involved. I read it before I removed myself from the email. Mom closed her eyes briefly. Grant joined us. What do we need? More food, Mom said. I'll order pizzas. She looked horrified. We can't serve pizza. We can serve hungry people pizza. Grant pulled out his phone and walked toward the door. I watched Mom stare after him. There it was again. A reasonable answer rejected until a man connected to Lacey offered it. The music failed while the pizzas were being delivered. Dad found me near the gift tables. Come here, he said. I'm talking to Owen. It'll take 2 minutes. No. He lowered his voice. You know this electrical system better than Grant. I told you what to do outside. The floor cover isn't where you said. Then someone moved it. Just come look. A few nearby guests turned their heads. I'm not fixing the lights, Dad. His expression sharpened. You're going to stand there and let the whole night fall apart because your feelings are hurt? I'm going to stand here because I'm a guest. This is still your birthday celebration. No, it isn't. Your name is on the invitation. So is the dress code. Neither one seems important now. Owen coughed into his fist to hide a laugh. Dad leaned closer. We'll talk in the house. No. Mara, if you have something to say it here. He glanced around. The public setting he had tried to use at my office now worked against him. Fine, he said. Enjoy yourself. I was. He walked away. Owen handed me a glass of wine. That was extremely uncomfortable. It was. I'm proud of you. I don't need applause for not finding an extension cord. I disagree. Personal growth should have prizes. The lights came back 10 minutes later. Grant had found the floor cover in the farmhouse garage. He ran the cord from a different outlet, reset the speakers, and accepted the pizza delivery without looking like a man whose engagement party now smelled faintly of pepperoni. After everyone had eaten, Dad called for attention. The microphone worked, though it squealed before settling. He welcomed Grant's family, thanked the friends who had helped, and said the evening proved that 2 happy occasions could become one wonderful celebration. Then he turned toward me. And Mara, he said, thank you for being generous enough to share your day with your sister. Applause began. It wasn't thunderous. It was polite, automatic, and somehow worse. People turned toward me. Mom smiled too hard from beside the cake table. Lacey stood with one arm through Grant's, her expression unreadable. I raised my glass because I didn't know what else to do. The applause faded. Dad passed the microphone to Grant, but an older man near me leaned over. Was this your idea? He asked. No, I said. He cupped one hand around his ear. Sorry? I didn't approve the invitations. The woman beside him heard me. So did Owen. So did Evelyn, standing a few feet away. I didn't say it loudly. I didn't need to. The sentence traveled through the nearest cluster in the subtle way uncomfortable truths do. Heads angled, eyes moved toward Dad, then Lacey. Grant began his toast, thanking both families. His voice remained steady, but he looked at me once when he said that marriage required honesty, especially when honesty was inconvenient. Lacey's arm slipped out of his. Cake followed. Mom had placed my chocolate orange cake beside a white engagement cake decorated with silk flowers. Mine was smaller, but tasted better. Several people sang happy birthday while others waited uncertainly, unsure whether singing diminished the engagement. By 8:30, guests began leaving. I was carrying empty glasses toward the catering station when Lacey caught my elbow. Did you tell people I stole your party? No. Evelyn asked why I lied to her about Friday. I told her Friday was my birthday dinner. You had to know what she'd think. I told her what happened. Lacey's eyes filled. Are you happy now? I looked around the barn. Dad was picking up pizza boxes. Mom was sorting gifts into separate piles. Grant stood outside alone beneath the one section of string lights that had never come back on. No, I said. That's what you still don't understand. Lacey stared at me as if I had answered a different question. Then what do you want? She asked. I wanted my birthday. You had it last night. Because I moved it. And everyone came. You had cake and dinner and all your friends. What are you still mad about?" The ease with which she separated the rescue from the reason it had been necessary left me tired. "I'm not doing this here," I said. "You were willing to do it here when strangers were listening." I answered a question. You always have an answer. "Lacey," Grant said behind her. She turned sharply. "Were you standing there? I came to find you. How much did you hear?" "Enough." Her hand fell away from my arm. She told Evelyn I lied. "Did you?" Lacey's face crumpled, then hardened again. "Whose side are you on? There shouldn't be sides. That means hers. No, it means this isn't a competition. It became a competition when she moved her party. I moved dinner," I said. "I left you the barn, the date, the guests, and the entire family. You took the caterer. I paid the caterer. Stop talking about money like that's all you care about. It's not all I care about. It's just the part you can't pretend didn't happen." Grant stepped between us, not physically blocking either of us, just creating a break in the line of fire. "Lacey, your mom needs help with the gifts." "Of course she does." "You don't have to help her. I'm telling you because she asked." Lacey looked toward the tables where Mom was reading gift tags and placing packages into two uneven groups. "She asked you to come get me?" "Yes." "Because Mara doesn't help anymore." The accusation was aimed at me, but Grant answered. "Mara is a guest." Lacey laughed once. "You sound just like her now." She walked away before he could respond. Grant stood beside me, both of us watching Mom hand Lacey a stack of cards. Lacey took them without looking in my direction. "I'm sorry," he said. "You've said that enough. I'm not apologizing for her. I'm apologizing because my family got dragged into it. They were invited. Under false advertising, apparently." I glanced at him. He looked exhausted, but there was humor at one corner of his mouth. "The pizza was good," I said. "Best $700 I ever spent." "You spent $700 on pizza?" I tipped well. "That doesn't make it better. It made the delivery drivers happy." Dad passed us carrying a trash bag. He did not look at me. I retrieved my purse and found the Navy invitation inside. For one irrational second, I considered leaving it on Dad's chair. Instead, I slid it deeper into the inner pocket. Mom intercepted me near the door. "You're leaving? It's almost 9. There are still people here. People leave parties." "I meant family. I'm family when work needs doing." Dad just thanked me publicly for being generous, so I think my shift is over. Her eyes moved toward Dad. He was trying to make peace. He was trying to tell everyone I agreed. That isn't how he meant it. Then he needs better words. Mom caught my hand. Her fingers were cold. "Please don't leave angry." "I'm not angry. Don't do that." "Do what?" "Go quiet and make me guess how bad it is." For once, she sounded less like a mother managing conflict and more like a person afraid of losing access to me. "I'm tired," I said. "I'm going home." "Will you call tomorrow?" "No." She released my hand. I hugged her anyway. Then I found Lacey near the gift table and told her I was leaving. She accepted my hug without returning it. "Thank you for the champagne," she said. "You're welcome." Grant said you picked it. I did. That seemed to matter to her, though neither of us knew what to do with it. Dad was outside flattening cardboard boxes. I said goodnight. He kept pressing one boot against a box until it collapsed. "Drive carefully," he said. It was not an apology. It was not nothing. On Sunday, I turned my phone off. I grocery shopped, cleaned my apartment, and mounted the new drill bit case on the utility room wall. Dad had chosen a good set. Each bit sat in a labeled slot arranged by size. It was exactly what I needed and precisely what I did not need from him. When I turned the phone back on, I had 12 messages. Mom wanted to know whether I had taken home the extra cake. Dad needed the number for the cleaning crew because they had not arrived at the time he expected. Lacey said Evelyn was making this bigger than it was. Owen sent a photograph of the birthday parking sign, which he had rescued from the trash and placed beside a wine glass. I answered the cleaning crew question by forwarding Dad the contract. I ignored the rest. The withdrawal felt cruel at first. Not answering was an active sensation, like holding a heavy door closed while people pushed from the other side. I kept checking my phone to make sure I was still not checking my phone. By Wednesday, the pressure shifted. Dad found the cleaning company's number without me. Mom located her own appointment confirmation. Lacey posted engagement photographs online without asking me to edit the caption. The world did not end. It simply became slightly less convenient for them. Then the wedding began. Lacey wanted October, which gave her 7 months. Grant preferred something small. Mom preferred something that would not cause relatives to say small with concern. Dad preferred not to discuss a budget until he knew what things cost, then became angry when told what things cost. I learned all of this through messages I did not solicit. Mom sent venue links with, "Thoughts?" I replied, "Ask Lacey." Dad sent a photograph of 3 catering estimates and wrote, "Which is reasonable." I replied, "Ask Grant." Lacey sent screenshots of bridesmaid dresses and asked which blue looked better on different body types, a phrase that meant Mom had reminded her Aunt Susan would see the pictures. I replied, "The dark blue is pretty." It was the only question that was actually about my opinion. 3 weeks after the engagement party, Lacey came to my apartment carrying a white box tied with ribbon. I opened the door but did not move aside. "Is this a delivery?" I asked. "It's an apology. The box is apologizing. Can I come in?" She wore jeans and a cream sweater, no makeup except mascara. Her hair was tied back. She looked younger and more like the sister who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms. I let her in. She placed the box on my dining table beside the unused invitations, which I still had not found a reason to move. Her gaze rested on them. "You kept those?" "I paid for them." She winced. "Right." Inside the box was a bottle of sparkling cider, 2 glasses, and a card that said, "I can't say I do without you." I stared at it. Lacey folded her arms loosely. "I want you to be my maid of honor." My first feeling was not anger, it was relief. The invitation seemed to return us to a familiar arrangement. Lacey asking, me accepting, both of us calling the exchange love. I pictured standing beside her in dark blue, fastening the back of her dress, keeping Mom calm, holding the bouquet while Grant looked at her the way he had in the barn. "You're my sister," she said. "I know. I don't want some friend I met at yoga standing closest to me." "Melanie?" Her mouth twitched. "You remembered. I remember everything." "I know." There was affection in the way she said it. There was also need. I picked up the card. "What does maid of honor mean to you?" She blinked. "What does it mean?" "What are you asking me to do?" "Stand with me." "That's all?" "Well, no. There's the shower and the bachelorette weekend, helping with my dress, normal things." "Who's planning the shower? I thought we could do it here, in my apartment." "The courtyard is really pretty in summer. It's shared. We could reserve it. My building doesn't reserve it. Then we'll keep it casual." "How many people?" She looked away. "Maybe 40. I set the card down. "That doesn't mean you'd pay for everything," she said quickly. "Mom will help. Mom still owes Grant for pizza. Dad paid him back." "Good. You're doing it again. Asking questions? Making everything transactional." The last party taught me to ask. She moved toward the window where the courtyard trees were just starting to bud. "I came here to fix things. By giving me a job? By asking you to be part of my wedding. I can be part of your wedding as your sister. Maid of honor is your sister. It can be." She turned. "Do you not want to do it?" I looked at the box, the cider, the 2 glasses. She had imagined us opening them, drinking together, perhaps crying. She had put thought into the moment. "I want to," I said. Her face changed. "That is such a horrible thing to say. I'm trying to be honest." "No, you're trying to punish me in a way that sounds thoughtful. I don't trust that you'll hear no once I say yes. You haven't even given me a chance. I gave you my birthday. You moved your birthday. After you changed it. There. We're back to that. It was 3 weeks ago. It's over. The party is over. The reason it happened isn't." She shook her head. Tears gathered again, but she blinked them away. I said I was sorry. You said you were glad my dinner worked out. That was me trying. You've never said, I'm sorry I mailed invitations without asking you. I'm sorry I mailed invitations without asking you, because I just gave you the sentence. What do you want, Mara? Blood? I want you to understand why I'm afraid to take the job. It's not a job. Then let me stand next to you and do none of the work. Her mouth opened, then closed. There was my answer. I'll come to the wedding, I said. I'll wear whatever color you want for family pictures. I'll help you get dressed if you ask me that morning. But I won't be maid of honor. You're serious. Yes. Who am I supposed to ask? Someone who wants to do it. I wanted you. You wanted what I do. She stared at me with naked hurt. Sometimes a true sentence was also an unfair one. Lacey did want me. She simply had no practice separating me from what I provided. She gathered the ribbon around the box, fumbling it once. Keep it, I said. I don't want it. You brought it for me. I brought it for my maid of honor. She carried the box to the door. Before leaving, she turned back. Mom said you'd do this. Do what? Keep withdrawing until we beg correctly. The door closed behind her. 5 minutes later, Dad called. I knew why. I answered anyway. What did you say to your sister? He asked. The truth. She is getting married once, Mara. I was only turning 36 once. That is not the same. No, I said. It never is. Dad let out a long breath. You know, he said, there is a difference between having boundaries and making sure everyone feels them. That sounds like something Mom found online. It's common sense. It's convenient. She asked you to stand beside her. She asked me to host 40 people in my apartment courtyard. Your mother said she offered to help. Mom's version of helping is calling me from a grocery store to ask how much ice I bought. That's unkind. It's accurate. Dad went quiet. I could hear television in the background and the soft clink of a spoon against a bowl. He ate ice cream every night in winter and denied it counted as a habit because he changed flavors. She's your only sister, he said, and I'm her only sister. What is that supposed to mean? It means she has responsibilities in this relationship too. She apologized after I gave her the exact sentence, so the wording wasn't perfect. The wording was mine. You're impossible to satisfy right now. There it was. If I could not be satisfied, no one had to consider whether they had offered anything real. I'm not going to be maid of honor, I said. You'll regret this. Maybe. People will ask why. Tell them I preferred to be a guest. That'll make Lacey look bad. Then say nothing. You think families can just say nothing? I looked at my phone. You've been saying nothing about what happened for 3 weeks. He ended the call without saying goodbye. Melanie accepted the maid of honor job 2 days later. I knew because Lacey posted a photograph of the white box on social media, now tied with a new ribbon. The caption said, "She said yes to the most important job." Tessa texted me a screenshot before I saw it myself. You okay? I wrote, yes. Then after a minute, I added, mostly. The word job sat beneath the picture like a witness. Melanie approached her duties with enthusiasm and no useful information. She created a group chat called Lacey's Last Fling and added me even though I was not in the wedding party. I left. She added me back because she thought it was an accident. I left again and sent her a separate message wishing them a good trip. Lacey did not add me a third time. Mom continued to send requests as though nothing had changed. At first they were wedding questions. Can you call the hotel and ask about blocking rooms? Do you still have that folding easel? Could you look over the florist agreement? Lacey is nervous about the cancellation clause. I answered the questions that required an answer and declined the work. The easel is in the barn storage closet. I'm not available to call the hotel. Grant should review any agreement he signs. Then the requests became ordinary again. Your father's prescription is ready. Are you near the pharmacy? The washing machine is making the sound I told you about. What time is my appointment Wednesday? Each message pulled at a trained part of me. I knew the pharmacy closed at 8. I knew Dad would forget the prescription until he ran out. I knew Mom's appointment time because I had entered it in my own calendar months earlier. I also knew they had access to all the same information. Ask Dad, I replied. Check the appliance manual. The clinic sent you a confirmation. Mom missed the Wednesday appointment. She called me from the parking lot the next morning, crying because the receptionist said they could not fit her in until June. I thought it was Thursday, she said. I told you the clinic sent a confirmation. I couldn't find it. Did you call them? I called you. You didn't call me. I messaged you. You asked what time. I told you where to find it. You knew. Yes. The single word hung between us. I had known, and I had not rescued her. Guilt moved through me so quickly that I almost called the clinic myself. Then Mom said, I don't understand who you are anymore. The guilt hardened. I'm your daughter, I said. I'm not your appointment system. I never called you that. You didn't have to. This is about my heart, Mara. It was a routine follow-up and they rescheduled you. In 2 months. I'm sorry. You don't sound sorry. I was sorry. I was also furious that her missed appointment had become evidence of my failure rather than hers. Where's Dad? I asked. He went to get feed. Did he know about the appointment? He thought it was Thursday, too. Why is this only my fault? She didn't answer. That evening, Dad called to ask for the names of Mom's medications because a pharmacy form required them. I don't know all of them, I said. You made the list after her last appointment. The list is on the refrigerator. I'm not home. Then call Mom. She doesn't know the dosages. It's her medication. She gets confused by the labels. Then help her read them. He went quiet. You've always handled this, he said. I shouldn't have. It was the first time I said it without anger. Dad did not argue. He simply ended the call and, as far as I knew, helped Mom read the bottles. The bridal shower was held in the church fellowship room in August. Mom and Melanie planned it together, which meant Melanie made a digital mood board while Mom did everything that could be accomplished with tape, a casserole dish, or personal anxiety. I arrived at 2, the time printed on the invitation. Mom stood on a chair attaching paper flowers to the wall. Lacey was in the kitchen wearing a white dress and arguing with someone about a missing cake. Melanie had gone to pick it up from the bakery after realizing the order had been placed for the following Sunday. Mom spotted me and nearly sagged with relief. Thank God. The drink dispenser is leaking. Then use pitchers. We don't have enough. There are pitchers in the church kitchen. Where? I don't know. She stared at me, waiting for my body to move. I set my gift on the table. Ask someone who uses the church kitchen. Mara, guests are arriving. So am I. A familiar hurt crossed her face, followed by something new. Acceptance. All right, she said. She climbed down, found a church member, and located 6 plastic pitchers in less than 5 minutes. The shower was not a disaster. It was merely human. The cake arrived late and slightly tilted. The paper flowers fell twice. A game involving wedding song titles confused Aunt Susan, who argued that Mandy counted because Barry Manilow sounded devoted. Lacey laughed. Mom sat down long enough to eat. Melanie gave a heartfelt toast about meeting Lacey in yoga 7 months earlier, which unintentionally clarified why Lacey had originally wanted me beside her. I did not feel triumphant. I missed being useful. More specifically, I missed the version of usefulness that let me move through family gatherings without wondering whether anyone wanted me when I was sitting still. After the guests left, I carried my own plate to the kitchen and found Lacey scraping frosting from the tilted cake into a container. You don't have to help, she said. I'm taking my plate. I know, I mean with any of it. Her voice held no accusation. That was almost worse. I rinsed the plate. Did you have a good time? Yes. Melanie's toast was nice. She practiced it in the car and still forgot Grant's last name. I noticed. Lacey smiled, then ran the spatula around the edge of the cake board. Grant says, I owe you a real apology. He shouldn't make you apologize. He isn't. He says if I don't understand what I did, we're going to keep having the same fight in different clothes. That sounds like Grant. It's annoying. Yes. She put the spatula down. I thought his parents would think our family was cheap, she said. The confession came so abruptly I almost missed its importance. What? When he proposed, Evelyn asked whether we wanted them to host a little dinner. She said little. I knew she didn't mean anything by it, but their family does everything. Anniversary dinners, retirement parties, champagne if someone buys a house. I didn't want them to think nobody was excited for us. So you used my party. Dad said the barn was already set up. The barn wasn't set up. You know what I mean? I gave her a look. Right, she said. Sorry. She folded a piece of foil over the cake. I knew you'd be upset. I also knew Dad would say yes if I asked him first. Why? Because he'd rather make you mad than make me cry. There it was, spoken plainly between two stainless steel sinks. And you knew I'd handle it, I said. I thought you would. Because I'm dependable? Because you always do. She pressed the foil flat. I told myself you didn't care about birthdays, that you only planned the dinner because Daniel left and everyone was worried about you. I made it sound like we were helping you. You believe that? Sometimes. And the other times? She looked at me. The other times I knew it was mean. The kitchen hummed with fluorescent light. Outside, Mom laughed at something Aunt Susan said while stacking chairs. Why didn't you tell me this before? I asked. Because then I'd have to admit you weren't jealous. I was a little jealous. Lacey blinked. I wanted what you have with Grant, I said. Not him. That steadiness. You had Daniel? No, I had a relationship where both of us kept waiting for me to choose it. Her face softened. I'm sorry, she said. This time she chose the words herself. I'm sorry I changed the invitations. I'm sorry I lied to Grant. And I'm sorry I knew Dad would make you absorb it. I leaned against the counter. The apology did not erase the barn or restore the original cards. It did something smaller and harder. It made my sister visible again as a person who could understand me and had chosen not to. Thank you, I said. Are we okay? No. Her face fell. But we're not nothing. She nodded slowly. Okay. That was the beginning of our truce. Not forgiveness, not closeness. A narrow place where we could speak without pretending. The wedding invitations arrived in September. My name appeared nowhere except on the envelope, which felt honest. On the morning of the wedding, Mom called at 8:17. The seating chart is wrong, she said without saying hello. Your father moved Grant's aunt, and now two people who haven't spoken since 2009 are at the same table. I'm sure the venue can fix it. Dean says you made the original chart. I did not. He says you have a copy. I don't. Mara, please, just come early and look. The old reflex rose before she finished the sentence. I looked at the dark blue dress hanging from my closet door. I had bought it for family photographs exactly as promised. I'll be there at 4, I said. The ceremony starts at 4, I know. You're really going to walk in with the other guests? Yes. Mom was silent. Then quietly she said, all right. At 3:30, I zipped the dress, fastened my earrings, and checked the invitation one last time. Ceremony at 4, dinner at 6, no assignment anywhere. I put it in my purse anyway. The wedding was at a vineyard 40 minutes from my apartment, the kind of place with white fencing, gravel paths, and signs reminding guests not to wander among the vines. Cars moved slowly toward attendants in tan vests. Nobody asked whether I was on the bride's side or the birthday side. I arrived at 3:52. Dad stood just inside the reception hall holding a seating chart in both hands. His tie was crooked, his reading glasses had slid down his nose, and the instant he saw me, relief crossed his face. There you are. Hi, Dad. Take a look at this. He pushed the chart toward me. I stepped around it and kissed his cheek. You look nice. Mara, the tables are wrong. So Mom said. I moved Evelyn's sister to table 7 because she and Grant's aunt don't speak, but now Susan says she can't sit at 7 because it's too far from the restroom. Aunt Susan can walk to the restroom. That isn't the point. What's the point? The venue printed the old chart, then used the old chart. I already told people we changed it. Tell them we changed it back. He stared at me. Can you please just fix it? Guests were passing us on both sides, offering greetings and glancing at the large chart like it might contain test results. Through the open doors, I could see the ceremony chairs lined in neat rows on a lawn overlooking the vines. Ask the daughter whose day this is, I said. Dad's eyes hardened. She's getting dressed. Then ask the person she chose to help her. Melanie can barely manage her own dress. That wasn't my choice. His mouth tightened. You really want to do this now? I don't want to do anything now. That's the point. I left him holding the chart and walked outside. My seat was in the second row on the aisle beside Mom. A white rose rested on the chair with a small card labeled Family. I picked it up and smelled it. Nothing. Beautiful flowers rarely smelled like anything anymore. Mom arrived 2 minutes before the music began. Her pale blue dress shimmered when she moved, and one side of her hair had escaped its pins. Your father is furious, she whispered. He'll recover. He says Table 7 is a disaster. Then Table 7 will have something to talk about. She almost laughed. The sound caught in her throat and became a cough. I'm glad you came, she said. I said I would. I know. She took my hand as the music changed. Grant entered first with his parents. He looked nervous until he saw Evelyn, who reached up and straightened his boutonniere even though it was already straight. Then Melanie came down the aisle holding her bouquet too high. The other bridesmaids followed in dark blue dresses that were all slightly different, an idea I had suggested months earlier when Lacey sent the screenshots. Lacey walked between Dad and Mom's older brother. For years she had talked about her wedding as if the details would create the feeling, the right dress, the right flowers, the right room full of people responding correctly. But when she saw Grant, she forgot to carry her bouquet low for photographs. She forgot to walk slowly. She smiled with her whole face and pulled both men forward. Grant laughed. So did everyone else. I cried before Mom did. The ceremony lasted 23 minutes. Lacey's voice broke during her vows, and Grant's hands tightened around hers. He promised to tell her the truth even when truth arrived at a bad time. She laughed through tears and promised to ask instead of assuming. Mom squeezed my fingers. I didn't know whether those words were for me. I decided they didn't need to be. At the reception, Table 7 survived. Aunt Susan made it to the restroom twice and returned with updates about a broken soap dispenser. Grant's aunt spoke politely to Evelyn's sister for 11 minutes before both discovered they were still angry about something involving a beach house. Dad sat at the family table beside me. For the first half of dinner, he spoke only to Mom. I ate, talked to Owen, and admired the centerpieces. They were simple arrangements of white flowers and greenery, nothing like the elaborate proposal Lacey had once wanted me to put on my card. They suited the room. When Mom left to speak to Aunt Susan, Dad turned to me. I handled the chart, he said. I knew you would. It would have taken you 5 minutes. It took you 5 minutes. I had other things to do. So did I. You were sitting outside? Yes. He leaned back in his chair. I don't know what you want from me anymore. The same question Lacey had asked in the barn. I want you to stop assuming my time belongs to you. I asked for help at your sister's wedding. You ordered me to fix a problem you created. I did not create it. You moved people because I was trying to help. And when helping became difficult, you handed it to me. His jaw moved. Everything is a lesson with you now, he said. No, it only feels that way because I used to say yes. That's not true. I looked at him. Dad held my gaze for a few seconds, then lifted his water glass. You enjoy making me sound selfish. I don't enjoy any of this. Could have fooled me. He turned away. The old version of me would have followed him into the silence. I would have asked about the wine, the weather, whether his knee hurt after standing through photographs. I would have repaired the moment so he did not have to experience what he had done to it. Instead, I finished dinner. When the dancing began, Grant took Lacey onto the floor. She had changed into lower shoes and looked visibly relieved. Halfway through the song, she whispered something that made him laugh against her hair. Dad danced with her next. His anger disappeared the second she stepped into his arms. That still hurt. It also no longer surprised me. Mom pulled me onto the dance floor during an old Motown song. She danced with both hands up, moving more enthusiastically than the rhythm required. "Your father will come around," she said. "Maybe. He misses you. He has my number. He doesn't know how to call without needing something. That's his problem." I know. The admission made me miss a step. Mom caught my elbow. "I know," she said again. We kept dancing. Later, Lacey found me near the terrace doors. "Can you come with me?" she asked. I raised an eyebrow. "Not for work." She led me to a small dressing room behind the reception hall. Her veil lay across a chair, and someone had abandoned 3 champagne glasses beside a curling iron. Lacey shut the door. "I wanted to talk before you leave." "I'm not leaving yet." "I know. I'm trying not to assume." I sat on the edge of a velvet bench. "You look beautiful." "Thank you." "You walk too fast." "I know." Dad kept pulling back. "That was Uncle Robert." She covered her face. "Oh my God." He looked honored. "I'm a terrible niece. You're a busy bride." She sat beside me, smoothing her skirt. "Melanie lost my earrings this morning," she said. "You're wearing earrings. Mom had a spare pair. Then they weren't essential. They were Grandma's." I looked at her ears. Small pearl drops hung there, pretty but unfamiliar. "Did you find them?" "They were in Melanie's shoe." I laughed. "How?" "No one knows." "Was she wearing the shoe?" "Not yet." We laughed together, quietly at first and then hard enough that Lacey had to blot beneath her eyes. When we settled, she leaned her head against my shoulder. "I wanted you there this morning," she said. "I know, I almost called. Why didn't you?" "Because I couldn't tell whether I wanted my sister or the person who would find the earrings." The honesty hurt, but it did not cut. "Which was it?" I asked. "Both." "That's allowed." "I know. I just didn't want to ask until I could tell the difference." We sat there with our shoulders touching. "I'm glad you married him," I said. "Me too. He's good for you. He said you warned him not to rescue me." "I did not warn him. I observed a pattern. You deposed him." "Briefly." She smiled, then turned serious. "Dad tried to make you fix the seating chart." "Yes." I told him to stop. "When?" "After the ceremony. He complained to me while I was trying to eat a grape. He interrupted bridal fruit. It was my first food all day. He crossed a line. I told him you were a guest." I looked at her. "What?" she said. "Nothing. I can learn. I know." She took my hand. "Are we okay yet?" "Better." "Better than not nothing?" "Yes." She nodded as if that was enough for now. When we returned to the reception, Grant was waiting outside the dressing room. He kissed Lacey, thanked me for finding her, and did not ask what we had discussed. I stayed until the last dance. Dad hugged me goodbye in the parking lot. It was a stiff hug, but he held on half a second longer than necessary. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I'm glad I did. Your mother's riding with me." "You don't need to worry." I wasn't worried. His arms dropped. That was the wrong answer. I knew it as soon as I said it, but perhaps there was no right answer that would allow him to keep the comfort of my concern without accepting my limits. "Drive safely," I said. He nodded and walked away. The wedding photographs appeared online over the next 2 weeks. In the family picture, Lacey and Grant stood in the center. Mom was beside Lacey, Dad beside Grant, and I stood at the end next to Owen. I liked the picture. I did not need to be closest to prove I belonged in it. Life became quieter after the wedding. There were fewer reasons for Lacey to call, and fewer emergencies arrived disguised as bridal decisions. She and Grant bought their own espresso machine, a cheaper model than the one on the registry, and sent me a photograph of the first disastrous cup. Mom began keeping a paper calendar beside the refrigerator. Dad added appointments in block letters and occasionally wrote them on the wrong month. They managed. At Thanksgiving, Mom asked me to make sweet potatoes and arrive early enough to help with anything else. "I'll bring sweet potatoes at 1, I said. "Dinner is at 2. "I know. We'll need to set the table." then start before 1. She sighed but said, "All right." When I arrived, the table was set. The forks were on the wrong side of the plates. No one died. Dad was polite and distant. He thanked me for the sweet potatoes and asked about work. He did not ask me to carve anything, repair anything, or find anything. That should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like visiting a house where someone had removed all the furniture to avoid discussing who was supposed to sit where. At Christmas, the distance widened. I had invited Tessa, Owen, Camille, and a few friends to my apartment on Christmas Eve. Mom assumed I would spend the entire day at the farmhouse preparing dinner, as I had for years. When I told her I would arrive Christmas morning, she went silent. "But you always do the roast," she said. "Dad can do it. He's never made one. He raises cattle. That is not the same skill. I'll send him the recipe." She waited for me to reconsider. I didn't. Dad cooked the roast. It was overdone at the edges and nearly raw in the center. We ate the parts that looked safe and filled up on side dishes. Lacey brought dessert, Grant washed dishes, and Mom sat at the table after dinner, instead of spending an hour alone in the kitchen. Dad barely spoke to me. When I left, he carried my coat to the door. "I hope your party last night was worth it," he said. "It was dinner with friends, whatever you call it." I put on the coat. "You were invited. I'm not going to your apartment to celebrate Christmas with people I barely know. Then you made a choice." His face tightened. "So did you," he said. "Yes." For once, I did not apologize for that. By March, Dad and I spoke mostly through Mom. He sent photographs of the farm, weather warnings, and once a link to a drill bit organizer better than the one I had installed. I answered politely. Then, on a rainy Sunday afternoon, 11 months after my birthday, someone knocked on my apartment door. Dad stood in the hallway holding a navy envelope. For a second, neither of us spoke. Rain darkened the shoulders of Dad's jacket. Water had collected on the brim of his cap and was dripping onto the hallway carpet. "Are you going to let me in?" he asked. "That depends." "On what? Why you're holding my invitation?" He looked down as if he had forgotten it was there. "It was in the desk," he said, "at the house. All of mine are here." This one's blank. I stepped aside. Dad removed his cap before entering and stood on the mat until I told him his boots were fine. He took them off anyway. He'd never been comfortable in my apartment. He walked through it as if everything belonged to a museum exhibit called Mara's Private Life, and touching the wrong object might set off an alarm. I pointed toward the table. "Coffee? No. Tea?" "No, I don't have ice cream. I don't eat that much ice cream. You eat it every night. I change flavors. That doesn't interrupt the habit." His mouth moved at one corner. It was not quite a smile. Dad sat and placed the envelope on the table between us. Inside was one of the Navy cards, clean and unaddressed. A printer's sample, probably. I remembered ordering 2 extras in case Mom ruined one with her looping 8s. "I found it under some of Lacey's leftover engagement invitations," he said. "Okay." I was cleaning out the desk. "Okay." He tapped one finger against the cream card he had brought underneath mine. Side by side, the difference looked even worse than it had on Tessa's phone. On my card, my name occupied the center. On Lacey's, I had become a courtesy. "I didn't really look at them before," Dad said. "You approved them. I saw them." That's generally how approval works. I saw Lacey's name and the date. I knew your mother had checked the addresses. "You saw my name?" "Yes." In small print. "Yes." The admission sat there. Dad removed his glasses from his shirt pocket, cleaned them with the hem of his jacket, and put them back without looking at anything. I came to say, "I'm sorry." My body responded before my mind did. My shoulders loosened. My eyes burned. Some part of me had been waiting 11 months for 5 words and was humiliatingly grateful to receive them. I kept my hands folded in my lap. "What are you sorry for?" His face tightened. "I knew you'd do that." "Do what? Make me perform it correctly. I need to know what you think happened." I approved the invitation. "Why?" "Because the barn is mine. That explains why you could, not why you did." He looked toward the window. Rain moved in crooked lines across the glass. Lacey was excited, he said. Your mother thought combining things would be easier. And you? I thought you'd adjust. Why? Because you always do. It was Lacey's answer from the church kitchen, but in Dad's voice it went further back. Fence repairs, spare keys, Christmas roasts, all the moments I had mistaken their certainty and my surrender for trust. You knew I would be hurt, I said. I knew you wouldn't like it. That isn't the same answer. No. Did you know? He took off his glasses again. Yes. I waited. Dad's hands were broad and nicked across the knuckles, hands built for practical apologies. He could fix the hinge on my cabinet. He could bring drill bits. He could stand in the rain at my door with a piece of paper and still struggle to name what he had done. I thought disappointing you was safer, he said. The room went very still. Safer for whom? For everybody. No. For you. He nodded once. If I told Lacey no, he said, she would have cried. Your mother would have worried. Grant's family might have thought we weren't happy for them. If I told you yes, you'd be angry, but you'd handle it. You called that trust. I did trust you. You trusted me to absorb it. He looked down at the cards. I've been doing that your whole life, he said. I did not expect the sentence. Dad didn't either. His face changed after he heard it. You were always easier, he continued. Even when you were little, no. He looked up. Don't turn me into the kind of person who was born needing less. That isn't what I meant. It's what everyone means. I wasn't easier. You just had more tolerance for my unhappiness. He leaned back as if I had pushed him. I loved you the same. I believe you. That surprised him. I believe you loved me, I said. I don't believe you treated me the same. Dad's eyes lowered. You called my strength the reason I could take it, I continued. But it wasn't faith in my strength. It was cowardice. You knew Lacey would make you uncomfortable, and you knew I would clean up the discomfort. He flinched at the word, but he did not argue. Rain drummed against the air conditioning unit below my window. I miss you, he said. I miss you too. Doesn't seem like it. That's because missing you doesn't mean I go back to doing everything the old way. I'm not asking for that. You asked me for Mom's medication list 2 days after I said I wasn't managing it anymore. I didn't know where it was. It was on your refrigerator. I found it. I know. He folded his hands together. Your mother says I don't call unless I need something. She's right. I don't know what to call and say. Try hello. He gave me a look. Just hello. Then ask me how I am and listen to the answer. What if you say fine? Ask something else. This sounds like instructions. You like instructions. That nearly produced another smile. Dad touched the Navy invitation. Can we start over? No. The hope left his face so quickly I regretted the bluntness, but not the answer. We can start from here, I said. Starting over would mean pretending we don't know what happened. What does starting from here look like? It looks slower than you want? He nodded. It means you don't get to send Mom when I'm angry with you, I said. You don't volunteer my time, money, apartment, car, or work. You ask. I get to say no without a family meeting. I never volunteered your car. You promised Lacey I'd help her move a couch last January. That was one time. Dad. Fine. And if you want a relationship with me, you participate in it. You don't wait for me to maintain it. He looked offended by the word maintain, as if relationships were machines that resented being compared to equipment. I can do that, he said. I hope so. He stayed for 20 more minutes. We talked about work. He asked a follow-up question, awkwardly and with visible effort. I asked about the farm, and he told me the west pasture gate was sagging. Then he stopped himself. I'm replacing it Tuesday, he said. Owen's helping. Good. I didn't say that so you'd offer. I know. At the door, he put his wet cap back on. Your birthday's next month, he said. I'm aware. Your mother has ideas. She usually does. Should I tell her not to? No. I will. He nodded. "Hello," he said. I laughed. "Hello, Dad." After he left, I placed the cream invitation in the box with the 39 unused Navy ones. I kept the blank Navy card on the table for several days before moving it to the kitchen drawer. Dad called the following Sunday. He said hello, asked how I was, and listened long enough for the question to become real. Rebuilding with him was not graceful. He still disguised requests as information. The barn needs painting would hang in the air until I made him ask whether I wanted to help. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. He learned not to punish the difference. Mom learned more slowly. When I told her I would plan my own birthday, she sent 6 menu suggestions and asked whether I wanted her to invite the Harpers. No, they ask about you. They ask whether I'm still with Daniel. They've probably heard by now. I'm still not inviting them. This time she laughed. I planned dinner in the shared courtyard behind my apartment. The property manager would not reserve it, but my neighbors agreed to let me use the long table for one evening. I invited Tessa, Owen, Camille, and her wife, Gwen, Aunt Susan, a few friends from work, and my parents. I invited Mom and Dad separately. The message said, "Dinner at 7. Please bring nothing. Please don't add anyone to the guest list." Dad replied, "Understood." Mom called to ask whether bring nothing included wine. I said yes. I did not invite Lacey. It was not revenge. It was not a test. I wanted one birthday that did not contain a negotiation about my sister's feelings. When Mom asked whether I had forgotten her, I said no. "She'll be hurt," Mom said. "I know. Are you going to tell her?" "I already did." Lacey had gone quiet when I called. Then she said, "Okay, no accusation, no appeal to Dad, no revised invitation." On the morning of my birthday, a card arrived in her handwriting. "I'm sorry again. I understand why I'm not invited, even though I wish I were. I hope tonight feels completely yours. I love you." Grant had signed beneath her, "Happy birthday. We'll celebrate another day if you want." I put the card on my refrigerator. At 7, Mom and Dad arrived empty-handed. Mom looked physically uncomfortable without a serving dish. Dad inspected the courtyard table, noticed one leg wobbling, and opened his mouth. Then he looked at me. "Do you want me to fix that?" "Yes," I said. "Thank you." He folded a piece of cardboard beneath the leg. The table steadied. The world did not end. Dinner was loud and ordinary. Gwen brought bread despite the instructions because she considered bread part of her personality. Aunt Susan announced that her hip felt excellent and accused everyone of exaggerating its history. Tessa gave me a wrapped box containing one wine glass labeled "No Emotional Support Required." Mom stayed out of the kitchen. Dad talked to Camille's wife about gardening and did not ask me where anything was. At 11, my parents put on their coats. "Thank you for inviting us," Dad said. "Thank you for coming." Mom hugged me. "Next year. Maybe Lacey?" "Maybe." She accepted the answer. After everyone left, Tessa and Owen stayed to stack plates and finish the last of the wine. At 11:47, they found a single candle, stuck it into the remaining corner of chocolate orange cake, and sang too loudly beneath my neighbor's windows. I closed my eyes. I did not wish for my family to become different people. I did not wish for Lacey to stop needing, Mom to stop worrying, or Dad to suddenly find perfect words. I wished to keep hearing myself before I answered them. Then I blew out the candle, slid Lacey's card into the kitchen drawer beside the Navy invitation, and went back outside to the people who had waited for me to return.